The pursuit of greatness begins at first light. Tell.
Tonight is a night of honor here in the majors. Two legends have each made their mark on racing in general and on the majors specifically. One intimidated all before him on the track, while the other made all feel warm and welcome off the track. And though racing is always about looking forward, from time to time we do need to look back and appreciate the joys and the triumphs we've experienced. So let's turn back the clock for a few hours, back to 1987, as we get ready to watch the Majors Daytona 500, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona International Speedway has been the home of the Daytona 500 since the very beginning. With an incredible amount of history here, it's hard to fathom just how many important moments have gone down. Let's head to our track guide so we can begin to introduce our viewers to it all. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. This track began life after Bill France Sr. realized the Daytona Beach road course had outgrown itself. With ambitious plans and the blessing of the city officials, he built what would become the very first superspeedway in NASCAR history. At 2.5 miles and with 31 degrees of banking, stock cars easily reach speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Pretty much every car can take the course flat out. This makes for one of the most unique styles of racing motorsports has ever seen. The slipstream allows drivers to stay with one another so easily that it becomes less about the speeds each driver can reach and more about the strategy of racing in a pack. Bump drafting is a technique in which the car behind actually pushes the car in front so that both are able to reach higher speeds. And side drafting is another in which the drivers use the air off the sides of their cars to slow their opponents down. Staying out of trouble is always a difficult aspect of superspeedway racing, and it's not uncommon to see drivers intentionally move to the back of the pack to avoid the chaos. In fact, the high speeds make large wrecks so hard to avoid that the term "the big one" has become commonplace to refer to the almost inevitable multi-car pileups the circuit is known for. Also, entering pit lane is its own skill, which requires practice in order to slow the car up as quickly and safely as possible. Keeping the car clean and in contention is the main goal for much of the event. Then the final few laps, it's a race to the line, with any alliances usually dissolving and the driver's urge to win taking over. With it being home to one of the world's most famous races, the Daytona 500, fans from around the globe flock to this landmark circuit. Just like the cars on it, the Daytona International Speedway shows no signs of slowing down. As you can see, there's plenty that will keep the drivers busy, especially and the older cars here today, which is going to completely change up the dynamic, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. Today's race at Daytona takes an entirely different feel than last round and brings with it a unique challenge never before seen in the majors, the 1987 NASCAR Chevy Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird. For those used to watching modern NASCAR 2 and 3 wide pack racing, with drivers mere inches apart from start to finish, that will not be possible tonight. These 650 horsepower beasts require a light throttle foot, a lot of patience, and a fundamental understanding of maximum slip angle and inverse aerodynamic pressure. Yes, you heard me right. Surviving a 220 mile per hour lap around Daytona is one of these steel cages took daring and skill today's NASCAR drivers could only dream of, and has proven a serious challenge for the majors drivers this month. With double-digit cautions in the other two regions and numerous insane saves as well, the respect these wheel folk are gaining for the famous drivers of the 80s like Earnhardt, Elliott, Labonte, Waltrip, and the father and son Petty duo will not be soon forgotten. While we see a lot of single-file racing here tonight, Joe, our audience should not be fooled into thinking that's going to be easy.
No doubt about that. In fact, let's talk about those race details. And DJ, I believe you've got the rundown.
I do indeed. Well, we are on the second round of the Majors Series for 2021 back at Daytona, running the new Daytona track, so no bumps out there. As Adam ran you down, we're running those 1987 NASCAR throwbacks. It is going to be a 200-lap race. That's right, folks. We are doing the full Daytona 500 here today. Now, as always, open setup, so these drivers are able to tweak and twist their cars ever so slightly, help them suit their driving style and figure out what's going to be working best. And this is going to be very crucial. You do get a spare car out here today, so if you get into a big shunt, you will be able to come in and get that spare car. There is a tire limit that is going to be put in place. There's 10 sets of tires. Now that includes the starting set of tires that they are on. So tire strategy may come in a little bit. Now, we will have double file restarts. We will have Lucky Dog, but unlike the modern NASCAR runs, there is not a green-white checker. If this thing ends under yellow, that's fine. It'll end under yellow.
Well, before we get to the racing proper, though, as you can see up in the upper left-hand corner, a lot of this race is dedicated to John King, and we'll have the hashtag Racing for John shown throughout to explain a little bit about it and what he meant for the series. We have a special video for John King, who was a big part of the majors in these last few years. Sadly, we've recently gotten information that John King is fighting brain cancer, and unfortunately that has not been going to plan. And they are fundraising to try and help him deal with some of the costs of that fight, which he has decided that he is now not going to fight anymore and has quit his treatment. So everybody's going to try and do what they can to help make this the best last few days that he could have. And to honor that and to honor John, the drivers, as you can see, are getting ready to do a 3-wide salute here. Short moment of silence in honor of a man that has touched many lives here in the sim and in real life, John King, who we hope this tribute will give him a big smile here today at Daytona. There you can see what John meant to so many drivers, not only in this series, but across iRacing in general. And again, if you would like to help with John, we have a link in the description that his GoFundMe is basically raising money to try and help pay for a lot of the medical bills that he and his family have had to deal with in these last few months and will have to continue to deal with. A huge thank you to everyone that has made this such a special couple weeks. Now, we currently have qualifying going on, and Josh Chin has the provisional pole, but we're seeing some strange happenings with a few drivers taking some oddly slow laps, so we're still trying to suss out what is going on with them. Swaby's not one of them. He's fully up to speed, and he's on his second flyer. Let's see what this one holds for him.
Yeah, Lennon Swaby crossing the line here, 42.468. That's pretty decent. Kind of put him up in 13th. One driver I'm keeping my eye on right now is Lynn Kenchlow, who's doing his second lap in reverse. Always a fun way to take the lap around here. Here's Jason Brophy, who has yet to set his own time. Brophy out there. Another driver we've seen taking it slow on his first lap is Lionel Callisto, which was very interesting. A couple of drivers just kind of chilling. I think they might want to end up in the back of the pack. They just want to set a decent qualifying time. They want to set a qualifying time so they don't end up way back, I think is what's going on.
Highly, highly unusual. Jimbo Pfeiffer, who we see cross on his second lap, does not improve. In fact, he was much slower, so he winds up 26th out of 27 who have set a time. We do have a couple others that have these last 4 minutes to try and put one in, including Blake Neer, who just started a flyer himself. This is Jason Brophy, we can see, who is in 4th and getting ready to cross for his second lap.
Well, and Joe, as we looked at that on board, you saw one of the storylines of this race. Brophy able to go very fast there, up to 6th place. But one of the storylines of this race is going to be keeping these cars in a neat and file order. As you said in the intro, these are not like the modern day Cup cars. They are going to be very, very fidgety, wanting to move around a lot. And so you're not going to be seeing that pack racing, and they are going to be a handful no matter where you are on track.
Here's Blake in the number 13. As he brings it down to the line, and it looks like this one going to be a 44.516. That's good enough for 25th, but as we saw, quite a bit of pace can be picked up as they continue on.
Yeah, quite a bit of pace can be picked up. One of my interesting questions for those who are taking these early laps, these qualifying laps, and actually like taking their time. Here comes Mark Stevenson to put in his first time. I think my question to them would be, like, have you watched the other regions? Because a lot of the wrecks happen in the very back of the pack. So if they start back there, they're putting themselves susceptible to those wrecks. We've only had about 3 wrecks over the course of the entire weekend that have happened in the front of the pack. So just something to keep in note for those guys who are starting towards the back.
Blake Neer on his second time through goes much quicker. 42.408. That'll put him into 13th. I see Boyd Hogan out there still. Looks like Ryan Steele is getting ready for a flyer. And we've got Aaron Roofs here on screen, as well as Mark Stevenson, currently sitting in 21st. He comes through the tri-oval, 42.294. Whoa, Stevenson up onto the second row. The 53 was flying that lap.
He most certainly was. And Adam, to your point, you know, these guys that are starting out slow here, not really running a full lap, you need 2 laps in these old cars to get fully up to speed. We have seen these guys time and time again that first lap, not nearly as fast as the second. The second one is the one you got to watch. That's the flyer as we watch Aaron Roofs coming through the tri-oval, and he's going to prove my point. 2/10 quicker on that second lap.
Ryan Steele just starting one, and we're with Boyd Hogan. This is going to be his second time lap. Last chance to try and go higher than 28th. 42.462. That will jump him all the way up to 17th.
Yeah, eyes on Ryan Steele now as he's just about to, he's on his first flying lap right now. And you may think that he's hanging up out there towards that crease in the pavement there, and that's actually not quite fast enough. That's actually one of the faster lines around this course. Running in the middle of the corner seemed to be one of the faster ways around the course back in the 80s. We got a 42.580, so there that proves it right there on his first lap, 22nd position. So if Ryan can keep up this pace and improve by just a couple of tenths, we'll see him up in the top 10.
Honestly, the top 23 cars are split by only 0.3 of a second. It's incredibly tight up at the faster end of the fields. Steele continues on, ducks it down low and back to the middle line as he swings it around 3 and 4 and back to the tri-oval. He might be our last driver who is able to set a competitive time, because we don't have enough for anybody to get back out on course after this. And it's a 42.450. So up to 17th, at least a couple spots for him. But I believe that should do it for everybody who is able to set a time. No one else is able to get out on track. So let's go through our starting order for round 2 in the majors. It's the Daytona 500, and Josh Chin puts it on the pole. Matthew Thunhorst will be starting in second today, with Steve Driscoll in P3. Mark Stevenson, we saw a very quick lap from him to put him into 4th, with Samuel Harris in 5th, and Christian Challoner starting in 6th. Jason Brophy, P7 for him. We'll then have Travis Warling starting from 8th, and Andrew Waring in 9th. Austin Espedy rounds out our top 10. Adam?
Eric Smith's going to start off in 11th, with Liam Quinn starting off in 12th position. Miles Crabb's going to start off next to him in 13th on row 7, next to Blake Muir. Row 8's going to be Aaron Roofs next to Andrew Wood. Then we got Ryan Steele in row 9 and Boyd Hogan in alongside him. Then row 10 and last of the top 20, Lyndon Swebby and Brian McGreevy.
Kevin Hill is going to be starting off in 21st position. Flanking him will be Daniel Johnson. Behind them in row 12 will be Zachary Brown and David Henger. Following that in row 13, Jason Wallet and Clark Archer in 26th. Rob Powers and Justin Kirby will make out that 14th row. And in the 15th row, David Hall and Vincent Herbier in 30th.
Jimbo Pfeiffer starts 31st, followed by Lynn Kinchlow in 32nd. And the last driver with a time is Lionel Callisto in 33rd. Everybody from here on down is being gridded according to their iRating. Wayne Hutchison, Johnny Nichols, Brian Barnes, Justin Morton, James Walker, Jeff Schmeier, Nick Kuhn, and Brian Bennett all have gone without start times and will be gridded at the back. So that'll be fascinating to watch. See if we'll get a cleaner one, if that will help them stay out of trouble. But one thing I love about bringing out these vintage cars that they do every once in a while in the majors is we get to see all some very creative and fun throwback schemes, or just generally schemes that feel of the era.
Yeah, some of these schemes are fantastic. Look at that forged paint scheme that we got on the 98 up there. Such a fantastic scheme sitting there on Horse Machine. I mean, it's just so cool to look around this field and to realize the respect and reverence that so many of these drivers and these teams have for this era of NASCAR racing. And I can't wait to see that respect and reverence transfer to how they race on the track. Watching practice, there's some pretty awesome racing going on, some very respectful racing as well. So I look forward to seeing that happen over the course of the next 200 laps.
Now, you may have noticed that there was at least one Racing for John hashtag on the back of one of the bumpers. You're going to see that all over a lot of the cars. And there's a few special things that will be happening in honor of John King. The Legends Trophy, which is the 55 and over drivers, is actually being renamed the John King Legends Trophy. So that is a very wonderful touch from the organizers. And then after today's race, the number 6 is actually going to be retired from the majors. Drivers will not be allowed to use that number anymore on any car. And John will actually be the first inductee in the Majors Series Hall of Fame. Again, if you want to donate, we have a GoFundMe link in the description. And a big thank you to everybody involved for raising all the funds that they have thus far. There is the man who is going to be the last person that will be racing with that number 6 here in the majors. Daniel Johnson here today with a Black Adder throwback scheme. Before there was Kinetic Racing, there was Black Adder. Many of the drivers who race for Kinetic came from that team, and John King, of course, helped organize that one as well, which is why you're going to see Black Adder out here, even though they are not a team competing in the majors anymore. We head around through NASCAR's high banks around 3 and 4, and the Mustang Pace Car is going to release Josh Chin. It's going to be a very different Daytona 500 from every other single one we've seen here in the majors, but will it be a clean one? Getting ready to go racing, the green flag held in the air, And as it's waved, Josh Chin gets a great jump on the field. They start to pick up speed and head their way down into turn 1.
Very quick race down to turn 1. These cars still building up speed, still climbing through 160, 170 miles an hour, now 180 as they start to reach the apex of 1 and 2, starting to come out onto the backstretch. We still got Joshua Chin up in front, still side by side though between Travis Warling and Austin Espedy there back in the 8th and 9th positions. But these cars already starting to string out single file. Looks like the bottom of the track seems to be that preferred line.
Only had one car start from pit lane. That's Ryan Steele. Everybody else took to the grid here today. Look at just how quick these things get going. 200 plus around the bank end. We've already got a caution.
A big one in the back of the field, and it includes the number 6 of Daniel B. Johnson.
Oh, no. I see Hall involved in the number 10. I'm trying to see who this started with.
It started with Brian McGreevy. It starts with Brian McGreevy, but this was actually precipitated by the number 64 of Andrew Wood, who got up into the outside wall. And that ended up checking up people, so we're going to take a look at this replay right now.
Yeah, I think McGreevy is going to get into the side of Swaby. And that's just going to send him spinning a little. There's the car that was up high, and then unfortunately the incident happening in front of them. The 68 is the one that first starts spinning. My goodness, take your pick. And who was that we were watching that just weaved his way through?
That was the 00 of Jimbo Pfeiffer, I believe. Here's Swaby. There's Swaby getting hitting the door there, and he manages to get away with relatively little damage, but quite a few Kinetic cars caught up in this.
The unorthodox car definitely got a big piece of it as well. So a lot of drivers going to have to take that spare car a lot earlier than they would have hoped, I'm sure. Didn't even get to complete the first lap, but we got awful close to it. And not a good sign, but you never know. Maybe that's just getting things out of their system.
Well, we can only hope on that, Joe. And looking back at that, you know, Adam, you were making a good point there about that low line being the way to go. It really looked like that Travis Warling was the only one coming through 3 and 4 that wanted to attempt going on that high side. Didn't have a lot of help up there. Nobody else up there with him. We're going to have to watch on this restart if Warling decides to change his mind a little bit, come down to the low side, try to fall into the line, or if he keeps stubbornly trying to make that high side work.
Got a number of drivers taking pit stops here. Looks like first out is going to be Justin Morton in the 9. LaHerbier also out. The rest probably taking some repairs behind them. Clark Archer in the number 3. My goodness, he does not look in good condition. And it appears he has been in there for quite some time, so he actually must have had to have taken a tow even.
Yeah, it definitely looked like he had to take a tow, still trying to keep track of who's taking their spare cars right now, but so far counts up to 5 and climbing. So as these drivers complete their tows and get their spare cars out going, it's tough to take a spare car when you only have completed 3 laps of this race.
Now I know V-Apex has their drivers sporting the space shuttle themes, and I'm trying to check if Clark had the ignominy to have the Challenger, but I don't see it written on there. Whoever gets stuck with that one each race, I just feel like that is bad luck all over it. But he's the Enterprise, so must have been the one that got was it destroyed in Star Trek 3? Our director will probably know. He's the Trekkie here. Yes, we're hearing in Star Trek. He seems slightly irritated that I've called on him for that one. All right, so let's hope we get started back here again pretty quickly. A couple more drivers in on the second lap around. Okay, this is fascinating. I think I'm seeing. Go ahead.
It's possible they're going for a little bit more fuel. Maybe a couple of guys realizing that they didn't want to take their spare car, but they're realizing they have to now. So, I mean, it's about half the field, Joe, that has come into the pits in this caution.
Also, something new this year that they didn't have last year, DJ, is the limit on tires. They get 10 sets, including the ones they start with. So They got to be, I mean, drivers that have come in, it's way too early, I would think, for tires, but they do have to be cognizant of that.
They most certainly do, and I think anybody that did come down in this this cycle of pit stops on that last time around, I think that may have just been a situation of trying to top off the fuel, maybe seeing if you can go an extra lap or two, then the leaders catch a yellow just right. If you're far enough down the field, nobody from about 21st on up came in, so that is definitely a, you know what, I'm running down here, let's roll the dice kind of move.
All right, we're getting ready to restart here. As you can see, they're already lining up on the high side. As it is a double file restart. However, it is the lapped cars that are going to be on the inside here. So they're doing it old school style. And since we are just at the start, we have no lapped cars. So this will effectively be a single file restart. Pace car is in. Josh Chin has control, and he takes off as the green flag waves. Let's see if they can make it around this time. Looks like things are nice and orderly here at the start. Pretty much everybody remaining in line as they start to get up to those nearly 200 miles an hour around this banking.
A fairly calm restart from everybody, very measured in the back of the pack as well. Everyone waited for the car ahead of them to go. Still a couple of battles we see going on up in the front of the field. That's Liam Quinn and Blake Neer side by side, and it's starting to stack up a little bit too wide as they head down the backstretch. Heading into turn 4, though, Joshua Chin right off the bumper, right off the nose of Matthew Thunhorst, just pushing ahead as they head towards the start-finish line.
In honor of racing for John King, we're going to take a silent lap 6 for car number 6. Let's watch as the drivers cycle around. If you would like to donate to the cause, John King's GoFundMe is in the description below, linked down there if you would like to help donate. We highly encourage everybody to do so if they feel inclined. On to the back stretch. It is still Chin leading Thunhorst. It's early days, no need to go racing hard quite yet, and though we've got a little bit of side-by-side racing, nothing is, there's no real drastic moves.
No, there really aren't, but it looks like a couple of those drivers is right on board with Steve Driscoll right there, currently 3rd place. He and Christian Challoner, the brave souls in that front pack, along with Blake Neer, that are riding on that high side. We talked about if anybody was going to start to go to it. Well, we've got those two distinct packs starting to develop here.
Yeah, it looks like it. Top 6 all together. There is pack racing, mind you, but it's not the tandem bump drafting that you're used to seeing in modern cars, for sure. These things have got to be scary if anybody gives you a bump draft. Looks like the 83 on the low side with a great run, though.
Yeah, and it's almost 3 wide to that corner. It's good they were able to sort that out, but yeah, it's one of those things that you have to be very careful of around here is running too wide. It may seem like that's totally fine to do, but these drivers have to be very careful doing so because the aerodynamics of these machines are such that you can get very easily pushed around, and especially this early in the race, I'm not sure whether racing side by side is necessarily advisable. Remember, this is an endurance race. We have 200 miles of this to go, and it takes a lot out of you to run side by side like that, and just one little mistake from one of the drivers next to you, and that could end your race.
Excuse me, it was the 53 that I mentioned, Mark Stevenson, who's up to 3rd. He's being challenged by Challoner, our current champion in the number 1, of course. And I did see Steve Driscoll in the 51 also basically move backwards pretty much of his own volition, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and it looks like he's trying to hook up with one of his teammates. This is Sam Harris that he's getting with.
Adam time, I think that plays into that endurance aspect that you talked about. What they can do here is they're able to really just kind of communicate with each other, figure out what they want to do. They can run some draft maneuvers together, as well as try to save a little bit of fuel. That will come into play a little bit later in the race, I do believe.
Absolutely, DJ. I just watched Jason Walton and Justin Kirby hook up as well. They're on the SimMortal team for SimRacing, the SimRacing SimMortal machines right now, running the EWR paints. They're all the way back in the 30th and 31st positions, and they're just hooking up together to race forward towards the pack. So definitely a lot of folks trying to find their teammates right now. But wow, that was a scary moment right there as we came off of the tri-oval.
That was Harris who just had a moment in the 42. Let's watch. This is on board with him.
And these are those moments that seem so trivial in the modern cars, but are so challenging here. He gets a little bit too high off the corner, almost clips the wall, and I mean, that slide looks so calm on board, but really, look at him. He's sideways as he goes through the tri-oval. Absolutely crazy.
So he's able to keep going. But these cars slide around a lot. That's one of the big differences that I've noticed, DJ, compared to the modern NASCAR Cup cars, is it seems like these things are never planted.
100%, Joe, and a lot of that has to do with aerodynamic downforce. These cars don't have that massive suction cup pulling them into the track like the modern Cup cars do, and as a result, they're going to slip and slide a little bit more. It really places a lot more emphasis on driver ability and the ability to feel what the car is doing. If you're racing on a sim like this, obviously you're not going to feel it in your backside necessarily, but you can feel the wheel get a little bit light, and the really good drivers just instinctively feel that and are able to add those little corrections to keep the car going the right way.
We're watching from Thunhorse, but we've jumped ahead of him onto Chin, who is our leader, seeing a whole field of cars chasing him down, pretty much single file except for one on the high side, and I think that is the 13 of Blake Neer currently, who's gone up from 14th to within the top 6 or 7.
That's correct. That's Blake Neer up there. And this outside line gathers a bunch of momentum. Now, granted, he doesn't have any help up there right now. But if he does manage to get one other driver up there, it looks like actually one is starting to move up to him. I believe that was Eric Smith is trying to find his way up there, but Blake Neer now trying to find a way down back to the bottom line. And actually, here we go. That's Steve Driscoll who's moved up in front of him, and they're all going to slot back into single file. But that is one way that you can make a pass because of how much of a run you can get on the back straight, especially. Through the tri-oval might be a little too risky with how loose these machines are, but down the back straight, you can get a run of up to 230 miles an hour if you are in the proper draft.
And safety was definitely not as big of a thing in '87 as it is now in NASCAR. So just fathoming going 230 in one of these things.
Boyd Hogan just did the same thing, Joe. We see him up there on the outside in the 96 machine as he's trying to make his way forward. Made a similar move that Blake Neer did, trying to make it up the outside.
See him up on the high side in that black 96. He's going to try and slot in. He's got an opening if he wants it. Yep, he's going to peel right in between Brophy and Smith. And the backstretch once again. Who wants to try that similar move? I think Neer, once again, he likes it. He's going to slingshot past Driscoll.
Trying to get that move done on Austin Espedy. He drifts up the track ever so slightly. Watch it. He and Driscoll getting very close together. Both drivers good to keep it under control. Joe, I think this move is going to start being a little bit more effective as the race goes on. Everybody's racing a little bit too tight right now, and you have the problem of getting caught on that high line when you don't want to be. However, as the cars start to separate out a little bit more, you're going to find it easier to pop back down on that low line, so watch for that effectiveness to come in a bit later.
Still, I like what I'm seeing. Drivers are very much respecting the difficulties of these cars and respecting one another out on the track currently, playing patient and making moves when they feel they've got a safe opportunity. watch from Brophy, and there you can see the timing.
Oh, we've had a wreck. Zachary Brown in the number 28 machine. And he's actually managed to save it. This is unbelievable. This is in a pack that's about 7 seconds further back of the lead group, and he got almost sent around by Justin Morton.
Let's take a look at the replay. He's just going to start to get loose, and he'll get, I think, a little bit of net code from the 14. Yeah, there you see it. Oh, wow, great job by the 100 of Lyndon Swaby as well. 2 wheels onto the apron and sideways.
Here's on board with Lyndon. Let's see how he handles this thing. He sees the smoke, he woes it up, gets onto the apron, and then massively slides it and is able to keep going. I mean, that is some impressive stuff. Saving yourself a wreck, saving yourself a spare car, that's the kind of heads up that you need.
Exactly, and not only doing that under a, lifting off of the throttle, but he had to put the binders on there to prevent himself from running into that car, so being able to do all of that at once, Swaby, the move of the race, only 18 laps in.
We've jumped a little bit farther back. We're looking at Herbier ahead of a whole train of cars. He's in 21st. He's got Swaby, Kirby, McGreevy, Archer, and many others behind him. But we're going to leave that and once again glance at our leaders, currently being led by Thunhorst with a pair of Team Forge cars just behind him. And then suddenly you've got Christian Challenger, current champion, all the way up to 4th now.
Yeah, and Joe, I think strategy for a lot of these guys, you've seen these front leaders. We talked about how Blake Neer and some of the folks in the back wanting to pop out to the outside. We're not seeing any of those aggressive moves from about this top 5 on back. I think everybody's perfectly content right here to just kind of bide their time. It's a long race. They know it's a long race. They don't want to get too crazy too early.
Now, the racing nerd in me is most excited in this about the fact that this is open setup. We covered the NASCAR Legends race a little bit ago, and that was a fixed series. I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out over the long run on whose car does what, who's going to be quick at the end and who's going to be quick at the beginning.
And Joe, I wanted to talk about, we have this big group of about 15 cars at the front of the field, and then between 15th and 16th we have Travis Worling in 15th, and then back to Justin Morton in 16th, and that's about a 9-second gap between those guys. And this is the first big split that we see here in this race between the front pack and this second pack. It's actually now opened up to about 11 seconds, so the drivers at the front of the field really are setting a pace that some of the drivers in the mid-pack and the backpack are having a hard time keeping up with.
Indeed. So as we watch the top group head back down into turn 1, we're already on lap 21, so things are ticking by now. We're not close enough yet for likely pit stops, though. We should see drivers stay out for a fair bit longer. See just how far back this group goes. We did see a bump draft up at the front. Chin getting a shove from Matthew Thunhorst. Clearly wants a little bit more out of the 93 at this moment.
Well, and if you see there what that did to Josh Chin coming through 3 and 4, that forced him up the track a little bit. Chin's been hugging down on that apron coming through 3 and 4 because of that bump draft. He had to come wide, so I think that's Thunhorst just giving him a little bit of Chin music, as it were, letting Chin know he's there.
Ooh, and dropping back very quickly to 53 of Mark Stevenson, shuffled to the outside of turns 1 and 2. He's going to look for an opening himself, but there is none forthcoming. Hung out to dry. He was all the way up within the top 5, and it looks like he's going to be potentially out of the top 10 unless he can find himself some sort of space.
Yeah, there's not much you could do up there. He also doesn't have any help to help him out. As I said that, a couple of other folks poking their noses out just a little bit as they go through the tri-oval, but yeah, it's so challenging to just hang on to it up there. Mark's just heading backwards. He's managed to equalize just a little bit here as he's tucked up next to Boyd Hogan, who we know likes to take that outside line, so it's possible that Boyd could pop his nose out and maybe try and gain some positions here on the backstretch, but it doesn't look like he's planning on doing that. Mark Stevenson continues to fall back.
Finally, yep, there he goes. All right, he's going to pop it between Smith and Quinn. But that will put him into 10th place. In response, Smith actually drifts up high. We're on board with Stevenson now, watching the Kinetic Racer of Liam Quinn. Interesting how they all kind of fan out as well. Different lines taking off the exits of the corners.
And that may come down a little bit to setup, Joe. You know, with the mechanical grip in this car, it's all about feeling it out and just feeling where the car naturally wants to go. Obviously, if you're fighting a little bit more, trying to put it into a position that you want it to go and not where it naturally wants to go, that's going to wear those tires a little bit more. So these guys thinking about that 10-tire limit, including the set that they start with. So that could be some of that strategy of just feeling out the car and what it wants to do.
Hogan's perspective. Thinking about 3 wide for a second. Thankfully, didn't actually do it.
I don't know whether he was thinking about it, but sometimes the car does what it wants to do on these big tracks, and it's something that we heard the NASCAR guys talk about back when they used to race this that often, is that especially when you get tucked into these packs, the car will just go places, and sometimes you just have to let it go over there as long as there's not someone out there to hinder your progress. But Blake Neer almost hit the outside wall off of 2. He's losing a lot of time.
Let's take a look at the replay. Let's see if we can see if he really did clip it, because we're starting to hear that he may have done so. This is from on board Stevenson.
That's Blake up there on the high side, and yeah, Blake Neer, he's way up there, about a half a lane probably higher than he wants to be, starts to wash out a little bit, and he managed to keep it off the wall there. That was very close.
Goodness. All right.
It definitely was, but that lift off there cost him all that time. He has now fallen all the way back to 10th place, so Blake running that high side a lot's going to have more work to do. Tries to sort his way in there a little bit, and
that was extremely tight. Thankfully, everybody came out the other side. One of the drivers that has been charging forward is Justin Morton. He started from 37th. He was one of those that did not put a qualifying time in. Here you can see him leading a train. He sits in 16th. He's being chased by Nichols, Roofs, Walker, Brown, LaHerbier, Kirby, and McGreevy right now.
Yeah, and this is the front. Justin has been leading this second pack that we've been talking about. They're now about 13 seconds behind our leaders. They continue to lose about a second every couple of laps or so. And especially for him and also for Joshua Chin, they're going to have to be the first ones to pit because they're not able to lift at all going around here except for when they head into the corners. So on the back straights, they're going full throttle, whereas everyone behind them is lifting half throttle at least, if not a quarter throttle, in order to not run into the guys ahead of you. So that's something they have to think about, and pit stops are going to be coming up in about 7-ish laps.
They come off the banking one more time into the tri-oval. The field is incredibly spread out right now. We've got 4 distinct packs, essentially, that have formed, and the fourth one is really only 2 cars, I should say. There's our first group being led currently by Josh Chin. And then from there, we saw the other one just briefly ago, and that is Justin Morton. And then the last pack, trying to pick up who is leading that right now. I think it's Daniel Johnson.
Yes, that's correct. It's Daniel Johnson, the 6th machine, who was caught up in that first wreck we had. Daniel Johnson. It's not that big of a gap, but they have it's about 6 seconds, and it's a little bit more broken up, which is why they're having a hard time keeping up with the pack ahead of them. But here's Daniel Johnson in that 27th position with Lynn Kinchlow and Andrew Wood behind them. All 3 of these guys had to take their spare cars on that last pit stop.
And there is a pack behind them, mind you. You can see there's a bit of a split. Andrew Woods at the back of the trio, and then Jason Wallet is the next one down in 30th, trying to play catch up and see if he can get with them and add to their numbers. But as slow as they've been running, unfortunately, the leaders are within about a third of a lap from catching up to some of them. So this could turn into lap traffic very early on if they don't get a caution here soon.
Well, and the one person that's going to be simultaneously hoping and dreading running up to that lap traffic could be Josh Chin. Obviously, he's going to have to deal with the fact that he's going to have to get himself around some slower cars. But as Adam was talking about that ability to kind of get off of the throttle, maybe go to quarter throttle or so, going through there, he'll be able to do that a little bit coming through the car. So he may be able to eke out one extra lap if he plays it just right.
That was Boyd Hogan, who you can see on the high side there in the background of this shot from Joshua Chin. He's tried to make a move and was unable to do so. He's fallen from 5th now all the way down to 11th. Oh my goodness, was that Liam Quinn? That's but he almost lost it off of 2. He got super tight, and now he's falling in line in front of Jason Brophy, his teammate. But Liam Quinn has decided not to lift off the gas, but now he's up in the marbles.
Whoa, way up into the marbles. The 25 is out of it. I thought maybe that was him trying to get back to his teammates there, and unfortunately it splits them apart slightly.
Tire wear.
Indeed. Something that we don't often talk about as much with the modern Cup cars, especially here around the newer version of Daytona without the bumps. But yeah, I get the sense that that's going to be a big talking point as things go on. The 25 continuing to bleed positions. He is in 11th.
Yeah, Joe, I think that 25 has pretty much completely lost its rear tires. It looks like coming off, it just wants to shake all over the place. He is not finding any grip. The rear end of that car super loose.
Way up on the high side. Might not be the worst thing in the world if he goes to the back of the train, as long as he can hold on to that draft, and at least he's still in with a shot. He finally gets in line.
Nothing like turning right to go left as you go through the tri-oval. It's one of the most amazing things to see these guys do. But look at that, he's turning right as he enters the corner. That's exactly what you need to do to get these cars to go their fastest. And here's Liam Quinn trying to hang on to it. You can see his wheel go straight as he exits the corner as the car wants to slip out from under him. That's the fastest way around the track, Joe.
What do you think, DJ? Do you fancy counter steering at about 215?
Joe, I have trouble enough counter steering when I'm in a dirt car going about 45 miles an hour, so I can't imagine going that fast and doing it.
There's our leaders once again, getting ready to start lap 34, and Josh Chin has been in control since the drop of the green. Nobody really attempting to try to make overtakes. How difficult will it be to pass? There's, again, not really much of an urgency to try to get that track position, especially if you're those cars directly behind, like Thunhorse, Challenger, or Hogan.
Yeah, definitely something that's going to be a challenge for these guys to sort out. And one of the things they need to be starting to... Ooh, Chin actually clipping the apron there. He's going to wash up. And this is going to allow Thunhorse underneath. I think Chin's backing out.
Wow. Oh, he lost a lot lifting it. So the 93 suddenly going
Oh, and we've had
backward.
a spinner.
Yep, that is Eric Smith, the 32 on the backstretch. He got some help. Mark Stevenson, the 53 behind him.
Right there. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He got some help, ended up going around, no caution, but ends up going into the infield, is able to recover the car and get back going. But as you can see, they're going through on the exit of 2, and that's where the rear of the car is the lightest, and the 53 just comes up right underneath him and gets into his rear bumper, ends up getting that rear a little bit too loose, and he has to keep going.
Now, to be honest, he's actually quite lucky they didn't turn completely around, because this is before the roof flaps and various things have been put on the cars. And these things are notorious for catching air, especially if they're facing the wrong way. He didn't turn completely around, so he managed to keep all 4 planted on the ground.
Now, in that chaos, Boyd Hogan took huge advantage of that. He's now moved himself up into 3rd. Christian Challenger's moved himself up into 2nd behind Matthew Thunhorse. And Chin is all the way back in 11th position right now. And now there's a 5-car breakaway at the front of the field.
First time we've seen it limit to these few cars up at the front. But we're hitting that pit window here soon. We did get some extra laps due to the caution there at the start. So I wonder if we'll see everybody trying to go long.
I think that's the call, Joe. I mean, you don't want to try to come in under green if you can avoid it. The longer you can go on an oval, the better. That's got to be the way.
Thunhorst looking back at Challoner here in the number 1. Going through NASCAR's banking of 3 and 4. They've got Boyd Hogan in that group of 5. Blake Neer's in there, and Jason Brophy.
Joshua Chin's into the pits. He was out front the entire time, and he's had to jump in. He's got some help with him. Austin Espedy's going to join him down pit road, as well as Liam Quinn.
Wonder if he just was using more fuel than everybody else.
Absolutely.
Being up front.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. I also think there could be a little bit of tire strategy involved with that. That big run we saw Chin have up the side there, chasing that down, that's going to wear a little bit more off of the rubber. And so him coming in here trying to get a fresh set of boots, it can do nothing but help him.
And I think this is a team call. LaHerbier is in. I also see Lyndon Swaby. So yeah, I think this is all the Kinetic cars got on the radio and decided now's the time for the move. They're off the jacks, they're rolling, but they're going to go a lap down.
But Espedy has got him. Espedy got Josh Chin there at the exit of the pit, so that's a big break for Austin Espedy and a heartbreaking loss for Josh Chin.
Justin Morton's going to be the next one to come in, as well as a couple of other drivers. Aaron Roofs, Zachary Brown is coming in, Brian McGreevy. This is from that second pack, as this first pack continues to streak by the folks who have just come into the pits.
Let's see, I'm trying to figure out if this is another team call. I see a couple of Forge drivers. So I suspect it is. Oh, and Aaron Roofs just missed his pit stall. Had to spend an extra half a second backing up. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that is going to cost him almost hundreds of feet on the racetrack.
Most certainly, and I can say one Forge driver at least has elected to stay out. Mark Stevenson in the 53 looks like he is staying out in that front pack for now.
All right, are we going to get our leaders in? We're watching Thunhorst up at the front of the pack. That top group has been run down by those behind them, so the top 5 breakaway is gone. Off of turn 4, who's heading in? Looks like Thunhorst is one of them.
Mark Stevenson as well. So the 2 Ford drivers at the front of the field are coming into the pits together.
Hopefully they get out close enough because they're quite far apart here. Looks like they're also joined by Sam Harris.
We see Espedy streaking by with Joshua Chin, those 2 guys who pitted together from the front of the field as well. So this is going to be very interesting. Very split strategies from our front.
We got a caution.
Oh, yeah. No.
Trying to figure out who caused it here.
Zachary Brown.
Yeah, the 28. Looks like he was involved in somebody else, though. One of our cars who pitted, I think, because he was getting up to speed. Yeah, Brian McGreevy tipped into him. The 2 of them came together in a big way heading into 4. In fact, McGreevy goes end over.
And here we go. They're just trying to get up to speed, and it turns out that they can't. I mean, he can't go onto the apron, so, man, I don't know. That seemed like it was avoidable as possible. That he could have backed out just a little bit.
There's McGreevy behind him, managing a barrel roll down the banking. And unfortunately, that blew his engine. He's going to try and drive it back around to the pits, but the pits are closed, so he has to go for an extra lap. Now, those drivers who pitted, I think, are mostly a lap down because of that.
They are indeed, Joe. I think pretty much looking at my live timing and scoring, the majority of them, I'm not seeing anybody of that original lead pack that has stayed on the lead lap up to this point. Yeah, Chin was obviously the farthest up. He is a lap down. Espedy, Quinn. I think Thunhorst made it out okay. Thunhorst and part of that group made it out okay.
Yeah, Thunhorst, Harris, and Mark Stevenson are going to be the last ones on the lead lap right now. So guess who this benefits, though? Last year's champion, Christian Challoner.
First in line as they come into the pits. There you see him now, down towards the lane. He's being followed by Hogan, along with Blake Neer in 3rd on entry. Got the 88 of Jason Brophy down there.
He's out of fuel.
Somebody, sorry, did you say somebody was out of fuel?
Yes, I did hear it. I think Brian Bennett out of fuel. He is having to get a little bit of a push here to get into pit lane.
Oh my.
I believe that's against the rules of majors. I have to take a look, but if that's the case, then he and his pusher would be penalized.
I saw Brian McGreevy go completely through the pits, but not sure what that is about unless he missed his pit stall. As we have more drivers coming in. These are our lapped cars, I believe, that are currently heading down for stops. Ooh, one dives out of the way. Matthew Thunhorst at the last second changed his mind. This is Brian Bennett we're watching. One of the new teams racing here, that Sector 5 team competing this season. Taking his 4 fresh ones and getting along on his way.
So I'm going to be interested to see is with this current strategy of how we're going to do the restart. Since we have lap cars now, they're going to be put on the bottom line for the restart, and I don't believe they get a wave by in this current configuration. Joe, am I right about that?
They have Lucky Dogs turned on, from what I saw in the rules,
Right.
but they will not. That lower line is not getting a wave by. The fact that they're lining them up towards the front on the lower line is their opportunity to try to get the lap back. So the downside is that's going to mix a whole bunch of lap cars in with our leaders at the start of the at each restart. So everybody's going to have to try and play nice a little bit there, and for those that are on the lead lap, they need to weigh, is it worth trying to hold them up, or if they fight me, should I just let them through?
So Christian Challoner is the leader of the race, but he is currently 6th in line on the top side. He has lapped down cars ahead of him.
Those lapped cars, I think, should be waved through.
But it's the lights are out.
Interesting.
So it's either a misunderstanding from the drivers on where they're supposed to be, or we're about to have a very interesting restart.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am not exactly sure. We'll try and get clarification here on what is happening.
These drivers absolutely should be on the bottom line, but they're not moving. So if we restart like this, there's going to be a lot of black flags because they're all going to be starting ahead of Christian Challoner, who's our leader.
I would think the sim would be telling them that they need to be next to a certain number car. Here goes the pace car, though, ready to release our field of 1987 NASCAR Cup cars. He's in, and the green flag is out. Everybody accelerates away. We'll have some questions answered rather in just a moment. Challoner doesn't seem to be in any sort of hurry to get by any of these lapped cars, though.
I mean, you don't want to push your luck around here, especially when you're starting. So he's still on that high side. He's going to tucked in behind Vincent LaHerbe. To go to the inside now. All the lap cars are spreading out up ahead of him. Christian Challoner in the middle there. He's in that number 1 machine, and that is the lead of the pack. They're going to go 3 wide as they go into 3 and 4. That was almost another wreck.
Oh, this is a big danger zone for Christian Challoner. If those lapped cars in front of him start to tangle, even though he's the leader, he's very susceptible. They come across the line. There's a whole lot of cars hoping to get those laps back. They're the ones hoping for a caution right now. As long as they aren't in it, we're on board our leader. Christian Challoner showing you just how many he has to deal with up in front, even though they are not for position.
I mean, realistically, they are on the lead lap, though, guys.
Yeah, this is just
barely.
an utterly confusing situation, but Challoner able to get through it nice and easy. I was screaming off mic there, just worried about him getting boxed in, but he has been able to navigate around quite well, now trying to get by Aaron Roofs to technically put him a lap down.
Oh, they're going to be 3 wide as they exit 3 and 4. That was James Walker, Lyndon Swaby, and Rob Powers who all got side by side there. Some of the lap cars really trying to fight their way back onto the lead lap via position right now. But oh my goodness, it's still crazy here after this restart. Still 3 wide as they go through 1 and 2.
Challenger has clearly the better pace amongst all these cars as he's making easy passes. We're getting a little bit of information from the peanut gallery that this is how the restarts were in 1987. So that's why we're seeing the lapped cars in front of the leaders.
Christian Challenger still trying to navigate his way through those cars towards the back of the pack. They're still trying to sort out who goes where and who's going to be racing where right now. But there's Christian Challenger going up to that high side, trying to make things work here.
We saw a bit of a sketchy moment, I think, between Aaron Roofs and Jason Brophy, but they got it sorted out. Roofs is one of our drivers who's a lap down. Oh my goodness, he almost squeezed again into the 28 of Zach Brown. Finally, Roofs gets into a single file situation, but the 26 was a pretty dangerous car for a few moments.
Was indeed. It looks like he's able to get it gathered up a little bit better there. You can see Brian McGreevy getting caught out on that high side. He was very, very high coming through 3 and 4. Continues to run that high line and just getting past like he's getting standing still.
So will we get another caution in here quickly, or are we going to go for another full stint before we see the yellow waved yet again? Down the back stretch, almost to lap 50, almost a quarter of the way through the race at this point. Challenger still has 3 cars in front of him that are lapped.
Yeah, Joe, and they've got to navigate Jimbo Pfeiffer as well, who's slow up ahead of them. Ahead of Christian Challenger is Liam Quinn, Austin Espedy, and Joshua Chin. All of them trying to stay on the lead lap as they are right now. And it looks like we've had a wreck in the backfield. Oh, it's on the front stretch. Oh, my goodness.
Through the tri-oval, I see the 32 of Eric Smith involved. I see the 28, the 14, I believe. Let's see where this starts. Oh, it starts with the 28, I think.
You're right. It's the 28 of Zachary Brown.
Oh no. Who's near Roofs, who I mentioned was being pretty erratic, and unfortunately, he's going to get tipped.
These two already having a history. Here they come into the tri-oval, and you can see Aaron's going to go to the low side. Zachary just crosses across his nose, gets tipped, and comes back into the rest of the field. Oh.
It's hard to slow these things up, and drivers just unfortunately not able to avoid the incident. Everybody behind, great job of staying calm in this.
Oh, goodness. Eric Smith completely T-boned.
Just completely blindsided there for Eric. He had absolutely no way of knowing that was happening to him with everything happening in front. And yeah, I have to say, guys, Aaron Roofs running that a little close to that yellow line. We talked about a little bit in the pre-race that they have instituted the yellow line rule here in the Majors Series. Aaron running right up into that gray area of what is and isn't allowed and trying to make that pass.
So the caution has now given the lap back to, I think it was 3 cars that were in front of Christian Challenger. And I want to say Josh Chin was still among those. Double checking to see where Chin is right now. Yeah, it looks like he is, as he's up to pace, and he is with Espedy and Wood, who were in there, along with Liam Quinn. 28 cars on the lead lap after that.
Oh, and this is curious. Christian Challenger's coming into the pits and taking the rest of the field with him, even after that short of a stint.
I mean, they went a pretty long run in that first stint, so I wonder if he feels like he has some tires to burn at this point.
Well, he's going to lose track position for it. Quite a few drivers going through. So Christian Challoner on the pits with quite a few drivers as well. But Steve Driscoll stays out, as well as Jason Brophy, Andrew Waring, Justin Kirby, and Clark Archer. But remember, those 3 drivers that we had at the front of the field before, they have now regained their track position, and they're now going to line up behind the rest of the pack unless they stayed out.
A couple drivers taking 2 tires. Stevenson and Thunhorst appear to be them. Wallet as well. And I see Dave Hanger has also taken 2 tires. So with that, we've got some interesting strategies going on. We'll try and dissect it in a little bit as we head to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Stick around for more of round 2 in the majors. It's the Daytona 500. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Getting ready to restart here for the majors, Daytona 500 on lap 54, and it is Steve Driscoll who will have control this time. There we see lapped cars down to the inside. So as they restart, they will have an opportunity to get their lap back, but the green flag waves, and Steve Driscoll is on it. Aaron Roofs is up at the front of that group. Remember, he was one of the ones that was part of that incident that last brought out that most recent caution.
Wow, and they're actually fanning out pretty wide across the track here as everyone starts to get going once again. I think people are trying to figure out what their pace is going to be. We have some cars with new tires, some cars with no tires, but man, it's pretty feisty up there at the front of the field. Steve Driscoll, Jason Brophy side by side, Andrew Waring and Justin Kirby as well side by side next to him.
And also a note, remember we mentioned Josh Chin, who had been leading much of this race. Who was that up high, almost getting the wall there?
Justin Kirby in the 43.
Josh Chin restarted in 18th position. He's still sitting down in that 18th spot, so he doesn't seem to be any sort of hurry here, just waiting to see how things pan out.
I think that's a solid strategy from Chin. We still have over 3/4 of this race still to go, so Chin has got plenty of time. Oh, very high into the wall there. Clark Archer almost tagging it up, as it looks like he was bringing Daniel Johnson along with him, and that's really going to cost those two, but the battle up front still continuing.
Indeed, Driscoll looking on the low side, going to get chopped off by the 88, who now takes that front spot away, and that's Andrew Waring up on his high side as we are on board with Kirby, watching up ahead.
NASCAR on new tires is Christian Challoner. He's up to 10th position, watching on from the back of this pack. Wow, look at this. A nice crossover move there. I believe that was Blake Neer who just made the crossover. He's almost going to wash up into Daniel B. Johnson, who's been able to recover up into the top 10 as well. This is some pretty feisty stuff we got going on at the front of the pack, especially with almost 3/4 of this race to go.
That was the 97 of Walker who went across the front of Justin Kirby, but that move actually worked out well for him because...
We got to check up in the back of the pack as well. That is, I believe, that was Matthew Thunhorst actually clipped the apron through 3 and 4. He's now back going again, but this is starting to spread out the back of the pack, but the front of the pack of the top 5 still inseparable.
And guys, I got to point out here the 13 of Blake Neer. He is on an absolute charge. You see him there, the second car on the high side. He has been running that high side the entire race, and he is flying. Here it gets tight.
I was going to say, we got a lapped car, and it's going to go 3 wide. It looks like it's going to work out in the end. That is...
It's James... we have
that's
James
Kevin
Walker.
Hill.
Yeah, Kevin Hill is who we just passed, but this is James Walker, a lapped car that he's pushing to the front of the field. James Walker, the 97 machine, now on the lead lap. Blake Neer trying to follow him through and go around the outside.
So Blake Neer challenging Jason Brophy. That time across the line, he actually had the lead. So that will count for leading lap for the 13. And as they follow behind the 97, I don't think we're going to see Walker give up this spot anytime soon, but he might not have much of a choice in it because Blake Neer looks like he's got a rocket ship underneath him.
Look at this. Jason Brophy's going to move to the high side so they can try and go around Walker. He's going to go down to the low side once again as they go through 3 and 4 here, but I think Brophy's planning on pushing Blake Neer to the lead and trying to leave James Walker behind. Oh, we've had a wreck again. This is Joshua Chin. No, Joshua Chin's made it through, but that was Jason Wallet, I believe, who's involved.
Johnny Nichols as well in the 14. And I see Lyndon Swaby in the 100 once again caught up in things. But this started, let's see.
David Hall in the 10. And it's actually a checkup from the 6 once again, who ended up checking up in the middle of the corner, Daniel Johnson. Daniel Johnson and Brian Barnes checked up, and David Hall checked up as well, ended up getting loose through the corner, and that's what started the wreck.
Okay, we're going to watch it one more time. And one driver that had you mentioned it, did a great job avoiding things is Josh Chin. Here's the incident. The 10 just getting banged around like it's a pinball. And the number 93 watches everything from behind. This is onboard Chin and just basically sizes it up, sees what's going on, checks up. Nicely done, very calm.
Very, very heads-up play there for Josh Chin. That's going to promote him back up into 18th. He had fallen back a little bit off of that restart. So Chin, very lucky to get through that after falling unluckily with that last yellow cycle.
So Blake Neer will be the leader here. The 97 of Walker is able to get his lap back, but it looks like a few takers down pit lane. Brophy, Waring, I see Driscoll and Stevenson, Thunhorst. Looks like Challoner also in there.
Yeah, Joe, it looks like this is going to leave out Blake Neer, Boyd Hogan, Austin Espedy, and Brian Barnes. The top 4 not pitting. Wayne Hutchinson as well not diving in. So those top 5 cars, those are really your contenders here that are not diving down the pits.
Who's going to be first out is the question here as we watch them get ready to go. And across the line, it is going to be Matthew Thunhorst with a very quick stop. I think that might have been a 2-tire stop.
Yeah, 2 tires for Thunhorst and for Stevenson as they both get off the line. The 2 Forge teammates get out ahead of Joshua Chin, who's actually just looks like he's taking fuel.
Okay.
Chin going for some track position here towards the in the first half of this race.
Well, I have to say, after that last incident, I can't say I exactly blame Josh Chin to want to get back to the calmer, pointier end of the field.
No doubt about that. It's been a little bit sloppy in the last few laps compared to what we saw early on. I mean, we had such a great long run to nearly 50 laps there, and then suddenly now it's been just a spate of cautions as we watch them work their way around the banking. One thing I'm noticing too is the marbles are looking just atrocious up on the high side of the circuit. Anybody who gets way up into those is going to be regretting it in a split second.
Yeah, we saw a couple of those moments happen on that last restart as we see actually some more people diving in the pits. I think these might be lap cars. Wayne Hutchinson actually decides to go as well as Brian Barnes, so some of the front drivers are going in, but it will be a couple lappers as well. But as you said, Joe, the Marlboros are starting to get pretty nasty on that high side. We've seen a couple of drivers almost get up there into it. We haven't seen drivers scraping off the wall as much as we saw in the other regions, but still, this is not a safe car to drive in any respect. And I think these drivers are still pretty clenched as they're racing around out there.
Now we have to remember that this is unlike in more modern racing here for the Cup cars. It's during the middle of the day, so 2 p.m. Eastern, a little bit past 2 p.m. Eastern right now. The track continues to heat up, 89 Fahrenheit on the surface. Not too horribly bad, thankfully. I'm sure the sun, which will thankfully set, will continue to heat it up until it gets a little bit lower in the sky.
Many folks would say that this is the right time to have a NASCAR race. There's definitely a split camp there, but as the lights are off on the pace machine, we have the lap cars lined up down bottom, the non-lap cars, the lead lap cars lined up on the top, with Blake Neer leading Boyd Hogan, Austin Espedy, Matthew Thunhorst, and Mark Stevenson to the line.
Okay, so this is new territory. Blake Neer, who started in the middle of the pack but has worked his way up to the top runners early on, now suddenly finds himself on the pointy end of things. Let's see how he handles this, especially with cars hungry to get their laps back down on the bottom. Pace car is in, and the green flag waves. Blake Neer goes, and he gets a very good jump on the bottom side as they all drop back quite quickly.
It's a big stack up on the high side, but look at this as they go to the front of the pack. Look at this. Blake Neer and Boyd Hogan absolutely flying through 1 and 2. Boyd giving Blake a big shove, just enough to get to his rear bumper, but not enough to push him to the corner, otherwise he'd spin him out.
Down the backstretch, picking up speed between the pair of them. This is just on the restart, and already Neer getting up to 211 miles an hour before they hit the corner. These things have some real get up and go.
Do indeed. You see there Hogan just trying to figure out where to do. The Forge teammates of Thunhorst and Stevenson split up right now by the 44 of Lynn Kinchlow. That's going to be a little bit of fly in their team strategy ointment. Kinchlow, one of the lapped cars.
Front group, pretty single file, but you get back to Brophy in P6. He's the start of the second group, and they are fanning out big time. McGreevy, Warren, Smith, Driscoll all in there, and they are trying to jockey for position. Look at that, almost going 3 wide for a moment.
Oh, and I believe that's Thunhorst all the way to the high side as they go through 3 and 4. Almost gone to the marbles there. He's able to hang on to him. He's going to lose momentum here as they start to duck underneath him there. And that's Mark Stevenson, who just went through, as well as Jason Brophy, who's able to sneak through as well. So this lead pack very spread out here compared to the last restart.
Fans of last year's champion may have noticed the Challenger is not amongst the top group. Now, he did pit, but I'm seeing a note here, Adam, that he had a actually horrible pit stop.
Yeah, he missed his box, so his stop was quite slow, but I believe that more went on. I think he might have caught a penalty for some reason because his stop was over 1 minute and 20. Didn't look like he had damage to me, so I'm not entirely sure why that happened, but he's currently way back in the pack trying to recover.
Well, it's still early in the race in relative terms, so I think he's got a shot to try and work his way back to the front. And honestly, luck has played a decent part of things thus far for a number of drivers, so wreck at the right time could allow him.
Oh, and Aaron Roofs is around. Lapped car on the inside, and this is the big one.
Yeah, a number of them going up on their lid. Others are trying to slow up, but they can't get it turned down in time. Holy cow. This absolutely started with the 26 as I think he got a little loose on his own into turn 1. Unfortunately, the 7 of Espedy was right there. You're going to see on the replay, he had no way to escape this.
DJ, this might be time to talk about the arrow push that can happen when you tuck in right behind somebody like this.
Exactly. So this is called taking the air off of the back of the car. You basically lose rear downforce on the car. That's exactly what happened to Roofs there. A lot of aerodynamic change going into it, but basically you lose any of that pull from the rear of the car, sucking you into the track, and that really loosens up the rear and it makes you slip and slide, and you can see a perfect example of just what happened there, and that causes the big one.
Ryan McGreevy, for I think the second time, has managed a miraculous escape. This is on Justin Morton, who doesn't escape things.
Got hit
Just
from
about got
behind.
it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's gonna. Oh, depending on the engine damage, that might be a spare car. Challenger got a little bit of rear end damage as well. Let's take a look at Brian McGreevy.
Look at this. Once again, just seeing what's happening in front of him and kind of carefully watching. His teammate made it through as well, it looks like, clean.
That was amazing. Him and the 44 just able to sneak through that. That's Lynn Kinchlow ahead of him that was able to sneak through as well.
Great stuff from the pair of them. Okay, do we have any stoppers this time by?
I mean, a lot of the field's just trying to figure out where they belong right now, Joe. So many cars were stopped on the infield, so these pit stops are going to be fairly spread out and fairly chaotic.
Oh, wow, a lot of them coming in. Somebody staying out there. I think, is that a lapped car? Yeah, that is Lynn Kinchlow.
Looks like the only driver, the lead driver at least staying out, is going to be David Hall. Behind him, Justin Kirby, the two that are staying out right now that I can tell.
See, oh, Vincent Herbier as well. He's on the lead lap. He's going to stay out. Miles Crabb. Other than that, Jeff Schmeier. Yeah, there's actually close to a dozen cars that look like they've elected to stay on the track here after this most recent caution. The highest one to have pitted was Matthew Thunhorst. Again, looks like just a fuel stop for the 98 of the Forge Racing team.
Yeah, so quite a few drivers having just recently pitted, and I could report that, yeah, quite a few drivers with a lot of damage, getting that damage repaired on the in pit lane. There's Matthew Thunhorst himself, having just come out of the pits, and he's going to be, like you said, the highest pitter. So David Hall, Justin Kirby, Vincent Herbier, Miles Crabb, and Jeff Schmeier are going to give their try at a restart from the front of the pack this time.
Lights are still on, so they'll continue to cycle around a little bit here. Amazingly, in all of this, if I'm seeing correctly, we have one official DNF, and that's Zach Brown. We might have a few more after that last wreck, though. I think Eric Smith, who's been in pit lane for about a minute and a half, I want to say he was potentially involved in that. No, he doesn't have too much damage to him. So yeah, he's getting going, so he's not done. Wow, still only one DNF after all of that. That is massively impressive. Last driver still running right now is Kevin Hill in the 52. Now he's multiple laps down. He's had to take some big repairs. There you see him on screen now. I wonder if he was involved in that last incident. Looks like they're going to extend the caution as well as they try to get all the cars in the order they'd like.
Yeah, it looks like we're running on an average of about 13 and a half laps of green flag before we hit caution. So we've had a decent green flag run, but ever since then, we've had a spat of cautions. This is almost rinse repeat of what we saw in the European region, to be honest. So hopefully that we can clean this thing up and get going for some more green flag running like we saw at the beginning of the, well, not the very beginning of this race, but after our first caution. Hopefully we can get back to some green flag running just like that.
Well, and what I think is interesting about these cautions, folks, is that, you know, the old adage of yellows breed yellows, not exactly what we're seeing. We're able to get 5-8 laps down under green, start to see some separation, and then a mistake or two gets made, so not exactly what you normally expect.
One thing to note, they do have an incident limit out here, 26, and you are disqualified. Drivers clearly are able to keep going after some of the incidents they've had, so I wonder if a few could be in danger by the end of 500 miles here today. Now we should get the lights off officially this time, and it's going to be David Hall who will lead them to the green in the 10. Tired of the aesthetic of these cars that we get to see race here in the iRacing sim. I know that the vintage series don't necessarily see as much attendance and use as some of the more modern popular cars here on iRacing, but I for one just love that we get to witness racing that we probably never would have gotten to, well, really did never get to in real life for a lot of these cars.
Also, Joe, a lot of these drivers, you know, a good half of them weren't born yet when these cars were racing around the track. So it's an experience that a lot of us who never were alive during this particular version of the NASCAR heyday really get to experience, and we get to really gain a respect for what those guys were dealing with around this track in a way that isn't a threat to our life like it was for those drivers as they were going around at 220 miles an hour.
Adam doing his best to make me and Sean feel old here. A couple of youngins that sit in the booth with us as we get ready to go racing on lap 70 now. This time they do have a lapped car in front of our leader. Lynn Kinchlow is on the high side. And Wood is down below. Not sure why Kinchlow has moved himself in front of the 10.
I think that's because he's on the lead lap and he's ahead of, he's on the lead lap and about to be lapped, but just ahead of our leader.
Well, he goes very early as the green flag is out. And away he goes. David Hall starts to pick up speed as he's being followed by his teammate Justin Kirby up at the front.
Yeah, pretty decent start for everybody. Everyone's starting to go, oh my goodness, a little bit tight as they go through the corner, and yeah, very tight actually for Justin Kirby as he walks up the hill just a little bit. Actually, it was David Hall walking up the hill in front of Justin Kirby. Vincent Herbier tucked in behind them. Some of the lap cars trying to figure out how they're going to get by. That's Miles Crabb who's going in between Brian McGreevy and Andrew Wood. He actually tucks into line, but look at this, the 10 up to the 4. He's actually being challenged right now a little bit by David Hall.
And Vincent Herbier, and that's the 27 that you just saw take the lead. That's on the same lap as our leaders. He was just flying by and said goodbye as he now leads a lap. The Kinetic Racing driver with a huge run. Is he going to get sucked up and repassed?
And Joe, I got to tell you, that was the run to end all runs, and it almost started in disaster. He had to come up around Hall on the high side and just use that momentum to slingshot him down. But right behind him, we've got those two teammates going side by side. That's going to allow for Herbier to get ahead a little bit. No, it's not. Here comes Kirby.
He's going to be plugged in on the bottom because David Hall, unfortunately, not allowing him to duck up to the high side. Johnny Nichols in there as well, trying to get his lap back along with McGreevy and Kinchlow. So really mixed up, unfortunately. Wow, dropping back big time. David Hall finding himself lacking pace, hung out to dry.
Absolutely blistering pace from all these drivers. Christian Challoner with the fastest lap at a 42 flat. That is significantly faster than anything we saw in qualifying. And we have a car in the outside wall. That's David Hall.
Oh no, we got too wide coming up below him. He's going to stay out of the way. Great job by everybody. A few taking to the apron below the yellow line to avoid him. I don't think they're going to be penalized for that.
That was Christian Challoner who took evasive action to avoid it. David Hall up in the outside wall. Christian actually is going to give those spots back to make sure he doesn't get penalized, but David just getting a little bit too wide on the entry of the corner, couldn't get it arced back down to at the apex and ends up in the outside wall and going way back.
Lead goes goes back to Justin Kirby in the 43. L'Herbier up on the high side with Crab a little ways behind. So the top two are basically flanked by a bunch of lapped cars. And really their concern is essentially with that 43. One's going to get by. That's going to be Nichols. Are we going to get more that are going to try and get a lap back here? McGreevy's the next one.
It looks like Andrew Waring had a similar moment to David Hall. He's now fallen back from the 5th position down to 16th as we continue to watch this very fascinating moments up here for the lead pack. A car actually diving down underneath the apron just for a moment before they went into the trioval. Goodness gracious, everything's so spread out and challenged here for this lead pack. Look at them go.
Justin Kirby, who continues to ride high, might lose the lead because now on the low side, Vincent L'Herbier is going to keep him from ducking down into that bottom line. But he's not our leader, actually. Looks like Miles Crab in front of them in the 29.
Oh, there goes Vincent to the high side. He really took it deep into 3 and 4. He's going to try and make that move to the outside. We have 3 lapped cars up ahead of this side-by-side battle between the 29 and the 27. Vincent L'Herbier in the 27 trying to make the pass on Miles Crab in the 29.
Adam, you were talking about at the beginning of the broadcast when that high line was going to come in. Well, between the move that we saw some of these guys do at the beginning, I would say that high line is coming in strong down the backstretch. Here they go, as that looks like it's Kirby falling back ever so slightly, or L'Herbier rather falling back, and it's now Kirby starting to challenge.
Also see Thunhorst and Quinn close enough that they are now in contact with these top 3. So we're getting cars that are fighting for position, grouping up here at the front, even though they are behind these lapped cars. Up on the high side is Thunhorst, all by his lonesome, frankly. We're riding on board with Liam Quinn, who is below him.
It's important to note that Lynn Kinchlow is the only car among those guys up ahead of this group that is on the lead lap. The other 2 are laps down, so Lynn Kinchlow at the back of that group of 3 that's ahead of our leader, Miles Crab, is really trying to hang on right now because that would put him back on the lead lap.
Sorry, Jimbo Pfeiffer just had a huge moment. The 00 keeps it from becoming a wreck. I don't know how he did this. You can see him riding low to stay out of the way. Let's get a replay here.
This was right in front of Christian Challoner as well, last year's champion. Look at him go through the corner, absolutely wigging out on the bottom.
Look at that. One wheel on the apron. His left rear was actually up in the air at, what, about 180 miles an hour there? And still he didn't wreck.
Shades of Kyle Busch.
So that unfortunately sends him down into 32nd. Again, he was a lap down already, but cost valuable track position in his hopes of getting back on the lead lap, which currently has 29 cars on it.
And Joe, speaking of falling back a little bit, Matthew Thunhorst forced to check up coming through 3 and 4. It looked like Justin Kirby washed up ever so slightly. That forced Thunhorst to check up. He has now fallen back in the order. He currently sits 5th, but he's got a couple of lap cars in between.
Now, Crab is not one I believe that we've talked about much here in the majors, but he has raced before. He started from 13th today in the Mid-South driver, now leading the way here at Daytona. We're still yet to hit the halfway mark, though, so let's not count him as a surprise win yet. Still, he's sitting pretty currently.
Yeah, look at this. These lap cars up ahead of those guys are starting to spread out a little bit, fan out across the track. It looks like one of them is going to go to the high side and allow it to be passed. This is actually going to hold up everybody behind them. And wow, Justin Kirby is right on the back of Miles Crab. If I was Miles Crab, I'd be pretty nervous about that for exactly the reason you talked about during that last caution, DJ, about getting that air taken away from that rear wing. If I was Miles Crab, I'd be very nervous right now.
I would be too, but he seems to be weathering it pretty well here. He's not really biting too hard on it. That is Johnny Nichols out to the outside. Thunhorst back into the action. He's going to try to slot back into line. He's going to be able to pull it. So the leader's down on the low side, trying to get by Lynn Kinchlow and Brian McGreevy up ahead.
I think they're getting a little bit impatient with these lapped cars in front of them. Ooh, once again, a checkup and a chain reaction behind them. Thankfully, everybody is heads up. This goes all the way back to 8th place. Blake Neer, the last of the lead lap cars amongst this group of about a dozen up at the very front and leading the way.
And Joe, on that last lap, going into 3 and 4, Miles Crabb getting frustrated trying to take
we got some cars off. Sorry, we got a little bit of an incident, but no caution. Clark Archer in the number 3, I see in the wall.
And David Hall in the number 10, who just slid into pit road, so he's on pit road safely, no caution.
This starts with the 3. Yeah, there you see him hit the wall in the 10. My goodness. A lot of damage from that, but he came to a halt off the racing line. Unfortunately, it just means that he has the worst luck here today, and yeah, he doesn't have his spare car. He's already taken off.
And Joe, Lynn Kinchlow has lost the battle to try and stay on the lead lap. He has now been put to the outside by Miles Crabb down the back straightaway. Lynn Kinchlow in the 44, now to the outside of Justin Kirby, who's in second, and Lynn is now officially 1 lap down and falling back.
See, last one that they need to demote is Brian McGreevy in front of them. Oh, and weaving back and forth. Justin Kirby, did he get below the line there, or did he?
He did. He definitely did. Both of his left side tires were completely over the line, Joe.
Fortunately, he did not advance his position, so it shouldn't be a penalty for him, but he was actually getting a nice push from Vincent Leherbier, and I think he just possibly got that rear end just a little light. So fortunately, he should be fine with that. Just, no harm, no foul there, but now we got Brian McGreevy leading Miles Crabb on track, but Brian's actually a couple laps back. Miles Crabb is our leader, second in line on that front pack.
That's Ryan Steele that we saw up on the high side. He's in a bit of trouble because he might have to go 3 wide. I think, thankfully, yeah, it looks like it'll happen here on the backstretch. Everybody's going to stay calm. Those lap cars, though, they make me extremely nervous.
Well, yeah, I mean, Brian McGreevy just made a pretty decent block on Miles Crabb there going down the back straightaway. If I was Miles Crabb, I would not be exactly happy about how McGreevy's handling being out front right now, but I mean, he's got every right to be there, so it's so hard to navigate this right now. Miles Crabb's going to have to sell McGreevy a dummy if he's going to try and get by and have to pass him like he would any other competitor.
And we have to remember that the blue flag rules are informational only, that Brian McGreevy does not have to give this up. He just can't, well, I guess in the iRacing rules, you can't intentionally impede the leaders.
Look at this, Justin Kirby to the outside. And he's way up the
too
track.
high. Holy cow, how did he keep that out of the wall? He had inches to spare, and somehow the 43 is not covering the safer barrier on the entry to turn 3. He does fall back a little bit. He's in 4th now as a few of the drivers with better momentum go through.
So he gets spicy in the back of this pack, DJ.
It really is. This is getting spicy all over the place. People trying to move that high line up the track as far as they can, take advantage of it. You see there, that's Kirby doing it by himself, but nobody to help him. He is not going to have a good run.
Leherbier, though, I think Leherbier, who we've seen pull great runs up on the high side, is going to try it again. He likes the way that high line runs here at this stage in the race. He cuts down low, almost gets into the side of McGreevy, and then almost scrapes the wall on the exit.
That was a little wild there. He's going to think better of it. Tries to slot into 3rd. Can't quite do so, but Miles Crabb now up there still trying to follow in McGreevy's footsteps. I think Funhorst and Leherbier are getting a little frustrated with this as well. Miles Crabb trying to find his way around that lap car of Brian McGreevy, but here comes Leherbier again with a decent run. Crabb's gonna go. Oh, he sticks a nose in, but can't make it work. That was a block for sure.
He is not making friends right now. That 29 is probably steaming under the helmet. In the meantime, Leherbier, reminiscent of the number that he's got on the roof of that car. Gilles Villeneuve style driving here today from the Canadian. And he's not giving it up. He's still running the high side despite that hairy moment. He's been attempting to try and get by that lapped car on the bottom. A big bobble from the 68. The 29 has to take evasive action up into the wall for the 3. And Justin Kirby suddenly finds himself all the way at the back.
Fortunately, everyone's able to dodge it and still keep going. A little bit of a checkup for the field, but everyone's still surviving. We're going to take another look at this on the replay. Holy smokes.
Just a little loose into the corner from that lapped car of McGreevy, and it all exploded.
It really did, and a very, very good job there for Kirby to keep that thing going the right way. You can see all the damage on the right side of the car, but he is able to keep going. Currently back, though, in 18th place.
And how about this? Christian Challoner is in it again. He's into second place and fighting now as Leherbier did take the top spot away from that lapped car. Challoner now on his high side and trying to find his way through. Someone went down low.
Look at this. Vincent Leherbier going up and giving Challoner a little bit of a draft there down the back straightaway to allow Challoner to get past Brian McGreevy. Here comes Steve Driscoll to make the move as well. These guys are going to work together at the front of the pack to get past Brian McGreevy.
And Joe Challoner here, Driscoll almost into the wall, but no, I was going to say Challoner is driving this like a dirt driver, just reading the track perfectly. He recognized where the line was coming in, got some more traffic. That's Bennett, Archer, and Hill right up ahead.
Oh, and one of them is in the wall. I think that's the 11. No, that's the 71, excuse me.
As the 71 of Brian Bennett managed to just keep it out of the wall, almost scraped it there, but able to hang on to it.
Leherbier leads, Challoner behind him in second, Driscoll third in line and third on track. Then you finally get to our lapped car of McGreevy with Miles Crabb still stuck behind him like he has been for quite a while now. At what point does Crabb lose his temper and potentially snap at the 68?
Very shortly, and I think Brian McGreevy might be snapping on his traction as well out of the infield, not the infield, the dogleg. One of these days I'll get it. Well, the dogleg both times this last time. He has been very, very loose, so Brian McGreevy is inches away from spinning that thing. Here comes a run for Miles Crabb. He's going to take it. No, he actually gets a little bit of a bump from Matthew Thunhorse behind, but didn't want to take the run into the corner, probably afraid of washing up like we've seen before.
Getting ever closer to that halfway mark in this race. And Christian Challoner took a little bit of a look to the outside that time, coming up to the tri-oval, sizing things up with Vincent Leherbier. How badly does he want to lead, or is he content to just rest behind the 27?
Joe, I'm going to hazard a guess here. I think Christian is relatively content to be where he is. As he gets down the backstretch here, you can watch. He gets a very, very good run, and then will slightly check up a little bit. He doesn't want to take that air off the rear wing, throw him into a slide, anything like that. Very content to be back here. I think he is thinking about fuel saving and just being a courteous driver at this point.
It does look a lot calmer now that we've got everybody in a single file line. At least most of them. The first one side by side is going to be the 88 of Brophy, challenging near for 9th position. Got a few drivers that are pretty well into it on their tires. Miles Crabb, 31 laps in. Same for Daniel Johnson and Boyd Hogan.
Yeah, Vincent Leherbier as well. Almost side-to-side contact there between Blake Neer and Jason Brophy. They were very close together, but Jason Brophy trying to carry a ton of speed through 3 and 4. Look at him steam up towards the front of the pack, all on his lonesome on that high side.
Yeah, that high line looks like the place to be at this point. If you're trying to battle with somebody, jump up to the top, and you're going to find better momentum. Oh, now things are really getting in disarray. This is not the single file racing we were seeing before.
No, it is not. Brophy continuing to run that high line. And Joe, it may be the faster line right now, but it's definitely a fine line. We saw what can happen to Kirby when he went up there. So these drivers have to be very, very careful not to overdo it. But it looks like Brophy's teammate Liam Quinn going to try a run on the high side as well.
And DJ, sorry to interrupt you, but Travis Worling has blown his engine and has gotten to the pits. He's going to take his spare car, but he blew his engine on the backstretch. This is going to put him at least 1 lap down.
Disappointment for him as they cross the tri-oval yet again. And Clark Archer trying to stay out of the way in that number 3. Same thing with the 10 of David Hall. Man, you can see the speed difference between the cars and the lapped cars and how much the pack allows you to fly around this circuit.
And so for those drivers that are up there in, as far as the pit strategy is concerned, I'm expecting that those guys who are currently on 4 and 5 lap old tires, Vincent Leherbier, Miles Crabb, Liam Quinn, Daniel B. Johnson, they're going to have to pit in about 6, maybe 7 or 8 laps time, depending on how much fuel they saved under caution. So it's gonna, we might see some green flag pit stops here once again, and considering the chaos that happened on the restart following those green flag pit stops last time, these guys are going to be trying to stretch their fuel as far as it can go.
A little shaky down the backstretch as everybody tries to figure out where they want to place the car and get it under control. This is just essentially one main pack and then a few other spits and spots of a couple groups that are maybe 3 cars, 4 cars in some cases out there on the circuit. Otherwise, everyone is all clumped in one giant run, and there they are on screen, coming down into turn 1 yet again.
Jason Brophy's just been hanging out up there on that high line all by himself pretty much this entire run.
He has, and it's really, I think, coming down to exactly if he can get the power down when he wants to. On this last lap, it didn't exactly go well for him. He lost out to his teammate Liam Quinn and Daniel B. Johnson. But now as he comes through 3 and 4, he's starting to get a little bit of a run here. So it's not like that high line works every time. You've really got to make it work for yourself.
It looks like it works 60% of the time, every time. So Brophy still plugging away at it and trying to see if he can get something. It's working for him, at least, as he seems comfortable. Hasn't been too out of sorts, which is maybe the more important thing in that line for him.
Absolutely. He looks very comfortable. In fact, this whole front pack looks very comfortable right now, which I'm sure is a relief to all the drivers. They need a break from the chaos. There we see Brophy getting a nice run on Daniel B. Johnson next to him, pulling up to the right rear quarter panel of Liam Quinn, his teammate, and he's got the momentum once again. And it happens every single time those guys up at the front wash out towards that high line is when he gets a little bit more of that draft and is able to put the power down. But Brophy, 214, 215, 216 as he goes into turns 1 and 2. These cars rip it around here at Daytona.
88 certainly not giving in. Ahead of him, saw a little bit of a peak from Thunhorst on Crabb for 4th, but then thinks twice of it and gets back in line. And I know we've been talking a lot about John King and his involvement for the majors, and this one definitely special to have him be the designated charity with racing for John, as his first majors win was actually a Daytona 500 back in 2018.
We've got a whole pack of cars up here from first place all the way down to 18th that are all pretty much in line. I believe it's Lionel Callisto who is lined up outside. No, I stand corrected. That is Samuel Harris and Johnny Nichols who are side by side towards the back of that pack, as we see the leaders streaking by another lap vehicle right now. But then from 18th on back to Wayne Hutchison is about 13 seconds, and then we've got that second pack that goes back to 25th, and those are the last cars on the lead lap. Oh, Lionel Callisto into the outside wall on the exit of 3 and 4. Able to keep going, though. Another victim of the marbles on the exit.
Great job, everyone involved on that one to avoid it. Let's take a look at the replay.
Joey's going to take to that. He's going to take to that high side line. That's Lionel in the white car. Gets a little bit close to the 32 there, but then just drifts up the track. You see that car in a little bit of a slide. Tries to catch it, makes contact, but able to keep going. He is able to keep pedaling along. He'll fall to the back of that lead pack, but still on the lead lap in 18th.
And significantly, we have now hit the halfway mark as we tick off lap 100 here in the Majors Daytona 500. And Leherbier is going to be the one to lead that. Vincent so far looking pretty good. The drivers that have been major players so far, mostly up towards the front. L'Herbier, Challoner, Driscoll, Crab making himself a presence most recently, Thunhorst as well. But we are missing a few. Josh Chin is all the way at the back of this group. He sits in 16th. Remember, he started this one on the pole. Oh, and as soon as I say it, Challoner, he's going to go up to the high side. He's tired of sitting in second. Ah, that's why we've got pit stops.
Yeah, right about on time for Vincent L'Herbier. 42 laps into his stint. It's time to get some fuel and some tires, get a little bit of that right rear damage repaired. He's got a little bit of help tucked in behind him. Lyndon Swaby and Justin Morton also came. Oh, no!
He missed the
box!
Oh, no. And I was just about to say it's very odd that he's only had one person, and it's Justin Morton, because Morton's not even on the same team as him. But L'Herbier probably won't be able to get that help at this point unless he gets going now. No, he's still up on the jacks. There goes the 9. And finally, squealing out of his pit box, Vincent L'Herbier watches his chance at a potential win start to slip through his fingers.
All right, so it looks like Justin Kirby will be the next one to take to the pit lane from about 12th position, and so that means he's going to come in and get some four tires and fuel. Christian Challoner now leads over Steve Driscoll and Miles Crabb. Miles Crabb is actually 4th in line because we still have Brian McGreevy tucked in between those guys. I would expect Miles Crabb, Liam Quinn, and Daniel B. Johnson to be coming in the next 2 to 3 laps. In fact, I think Miles is going to be coming this time.
And I just want to point out that was a great little crossover move on the backstretch from Matthew Thunhorst on Miles Crabb. He looked like he was going to feint to the outside and was just able to very silkily smooth drive it down to the inside and move Thunhorst up a position. Now he is going to try to move on Brian McGreevy and see if he can't get by that lap traffic.
By the way, for those curious, L'Herbier did not catch the slipstream. He is just way too far behind. I think Wayne Hutchison is coming in. Looks like he's joined by Jimbo Pfeiffer in the double locks. As we watch Christian Challoner looking for a quarter century of wins here soon. If he can take this one home, it'll be number 25 in the majors.
We almost have 3 wide moments. Brophy and Liam Quinn, but here we go. Miles Crabb and Liam Quinn coming into the pits along with Daniel B. Johnson. It's going to be 3 wide at the end. Oh, no! Crabb hitting Quinn as they go into the pits. Crabb is going to be able to get there. I think it's not going to be too much damage for Quinn. He should be fine, but Miles Crabb's going to lose a ton of time and not be able to catch the draft.
Unfortunately, yeah, look at the damage on the 25's right front, though. Hopefully they can bang that out pretty quick in this pit stop, but Crab scuttling sideways just catches out a couple drivers. And there he's got his right tires now up for the left, I would assume. Full service for the Kinetic Racing driver. Still waiting on a number of drivers to come in for stops. The top 18 still running.
I would expect them to run for another 4 laps-ish, Joe, about 3 to 4 laps for these drivers at the front of the field, and especially because of the chaos that we've seen, and we've got almost a caution. It might be a caution. It's gonna be a caution. The 96 of Boyd Hogan is around in 3 and 4. There you see it coming into frame now.
Out of turn 4, let's try and see.
This is what they were afraid of, Joe. This is what everyone's afraid of when you take a green flag stop, because now you're caught a lap down.
Yeah, we had that very early on in the second caution as well. Hogan just going to start to lose the car a little bit. Yeah, you can see those tires smoking as they try to hold on. The 9 of Morton try to stay out of it. He bangs the wall and then gets caught out.
Can we ride on board with Jason Brophy in the 88, because he was right behind this and just narrowly avoided taking a ton of damage there.
He did, but I think he and Justin Morton may have had a little bit of door banging back down the back straight. Can't believe he missed that, but there, yeah, just a little bit. Brophy and Morton come together, but Brophy able to keep it back under him.
We're going to watch Morton here on the replay. Coming up behind Hogan. I already see the rear of the car dancing around quite a bit just through the tri-oval and then plunging it down into turn 1.
He sees it happening. Look at that. He's on the brakes already. He sees the wreck happening.
I don't think this isn't the wreck here, it looks like. Actually, was that not the 9? Maybe that was the 6 that was into the wall. Hope I didn't get the numbers turned around. But interesting accident there that is going to give a caution flag stop for pretty much all of our leaders, while those who pitted early are going to be caught a lap down. As we get ready for stops to take place, let's see who's going to be good off the line. Who takes a risk of maybe 2 tires, maybe fuel only?
I don't know, Joe. That was a long run. If you're going to take 2 tires, you got to hope that you've got that thing underneath you. But as everyone's jacks go up, Christian Challenger did lead them in. But pitting like this hasn't really worked out for him in the past. Let's see whether or not he can be first off the box this time.
Tell you what, Chin really went far. You can see how far up in his box he is. I can't believe that counted. And it is going to be Challenger first out, with Brophy behind him in second. Looks like Thunhorse going to come out in third. All right, that gives us a chance to take a quick breather here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the latter half of the Majors Daytona 500. Don't go away. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. As we get ready to restart, Christian Challenger will be at the pointy end of the drivers on the lead lap, but look at how many are in front of him getting their lap back. There's got to be at least 20 cars in front of him, it looks like.
Yeah, and this was all because of the pit stop cycles. These are the guys who took their pit stops. This is Lyndon Swaby, Wayne Hutchison, Vincent LaHerbier, all those drivers who took the stop on the lap before the wreck, trying to regain their lap on raw pace, lining up ahead of the leader.
Looks like we had a problem with Johnny Nichols' internet connection, and he has unfortunately left the server. Not sure if he's going to be able to get back with a competitive car after that. As the pace car gets ready to release a whole bunch of lapped cars, and then eventually our leader, Christian Challenger, there it goes, and the green flag waves. We are down to just a few cars on the lead lap, and the rest barely ahead of our leader, all hoping that they can cycle back around and get their lap back. We start to pick up pace, and we are less than 100 laps to go in this 500-miler.
Side by side for the lead with Matthew Thunhorse and Christian Challenger tucked in behind 2 Kinetic Racing machines. Christian Challenger is going to lose the lead actually to Thunhorse, who now ducks down to that low side. So we continue to watch Daniel B. Johnson leading this pack, but they're tucked in behind all the these guys is our leaders. Oh, and we've had a car hit the wall. That was Wayne Hutchison and Justin Kirby, who both hit the wall through 3 and 4. They're both going to back out of it, but Thunhorse, Challoner, Brophy, and Driscoll now in a line. Our leaders right down there, starting with the red fendered Matthew Thunhorse.
Our new leader here today, Thunhorst, an old rival of Christian Challoner here in the majors. He's looking good at this portion of the race, but it is not clear sailing in front of him. The two of them face an enormous pile of cars. They come down into turn 3 yet again, and they're all jockeying for position still, many of them too wide. This has got to be incredibly unnerving.
And just hearing over the radio on open chatter, Thunhorse is kind of letting everybody know, I just want to take it easy through here. Doesn't want to push the envelope too much, very much looking at the next 100 laps in this race.
And that's good for Thunhorse, but there are guys behind him who definitely don't want to take it easy. One of them being Steve Driscoll. He's going to look at the outside of Christian Challoner as they go through 1 and 2. He's definitely not one to take it easy. He wants to get a move on.
Challoner, Driscoll, Brophy all watch this mess unfold in front of them. They try to focus on their own races, and it appears that Thunhorst is focusing on taking things into his own hands as well. He's starting to pick off our lapped cars one by one.
He's up there on the high side. Christian Challoner still on the low side. He's now going to go to the high side, and these lap cars are going to start falling like rocks. Matthew Thunhorse now 4th car in the top line, where you can see him right now in that 98 machine tucked in behind the 12 of Ryan Steele on that high line. These guys up at the front of the pack are not at the front of the race, and they're all trying to stay on the lead lap here. Oh, the 51 Steve Driscoll gets trapped down on the bottom side. Christian Challoner is going to be able to go around as they go into 3 and 4.
Big checkup on that bottom line that gave a scare to a few drivers. No dramas though. Everybody keeps cool in the heat of the moment as we cross the start-finish line yet again. Thunhorse still leading, but still 4th in the line of the high side. No place to go for the cars in front of him, even if they wanted to let him go by.
Looks like Thunhorst almost thinking about trying to take it 3 wide there through there, but decides not to. He just has absolutely nowhere to go. He is completely boxed in around here. Challoner ducking back down to the low line, seeing if that'll help him out at all.
This is pretty. Oh my goodness, that's a checkup right there for Thunhorse on the high side. That is almost a wreck. Checking up the middle of the corner like that. Oh, and a car in the outside wall. I believe that's Vincent Laherbier who hit the outside wall just a little bit there. That means Thunhorse is going to drop down right in front of Christian Challoner. So once again, now Steve Driscoll leads this race as a result of that checkup.
27, remember, was vying for the lead not long ago before his disastrous pit stop. So this is not the development he was looking for. And Thunhorst has been getting on the radio, clearly frustrated with the lap traffic now. He's been expressing his displeasure, but actually he's lost the lead. Driscoll managed to get by. He's now getting up 2nd in line behind the 29 of Crab.
Battling tooth and nail now. We have Steve Driscoll, Matthew Thunhorse, and Christian Challoner 2, 3, 4 in that top line, following in behind Crab, who's just trying to hang on to that lead lap. Remember, Crab was in the lead of this race just last stint. So that's what can happen when you get caught almost a lap down because of the green flag pit stops. You get trapped behind that pace car, and that's why he's trying to hang on to the lead here. Oh, Thunhorse almost making side-by-side contact with Liam Quinn. Able to hang on to it, though. Now is the leaders all in that top line, the top 3.
Charging ahead through the entry into turn 3. Driscoll's looking strong. Can he finally clear all of these lapped cars? He's got it, but he's not fully beyond. He's got a nose ahead. Will Crab give up the ghost? Will he let him have it? Or is he going to try and make him fight for it? He's not going to let him have it. So the 51 has to continue to push hard here on the high side. He's got a little help behind him. Matthew Thunhorst in the 98. Will he be able to give him a little bit of a shove here?
just the slightest of one. I think that may be just enough to get Driscoll up ahead. It looks like he's gonna have it there.
Oh, not quite.
Still not there, but it's getting closer. And it looks like that top line is indeed moving. Christian Challoner sees it happening. He joins them. Still not fully clear. Does the 51 finally chop down? No. He's going to stay put.
Christian Challoner's going to duck down. He's too stressed out about riding behind Thunhorse right in behind Steve Driscoll, and actually with Christian Challoner tucking in there, it almost got Thunhorse loose through 1 and 2, almost sent him down towards the bottom of the track, but Christian Challoner's going to try and make his way by Thunhorse by teaming up with that bottom line of black cars.
Christian using that pro-level experience in stock car racing to his advantage, making sure to read the situation and put himself where it is most safe. Right now, he sits third in line, but he's second on the overall positions. And I think that might actually give him the lead soon, because the 51 does not look as quick as he did just a few laps ago.
No, he's not, but he's got to be careful there. Daniel B. Johnson moving around a little bit on the 29, just trying to find something by, but it is going to be Challoner leaning into turn 3. Johnson coming down again. That's going to check up Challoner, put Driscoll back in the lead.
Long, I don't think. Does he have the momentum? That's a big question. Oh, a big bobble there from the 6.
If I'm Challoner, I'm popping out right now, Joe, but he doesn't have an opportunity to, because that's Ryan Steele, who's in the 12 machine, jumping up behind Steve Driscoll and trapping Challoner down on that low side. This is the closest racing we have seen all race, and it's between lap cars and lead lap cars, all tucked into one pack.
Challoner boxed in where he doesn't want to be now. At the time, it looked like a good decision, but it's biting him. And up on the high side, I think, oh no, that is...
Oh no! The 51 almost spins it, he is able to save it, and now the 13's around. This is going to be another big one.
And that's Thunhorse. Thunhorse spinning around as well.
Oh, who's going to make it through? The caution is out. Looks like Liam Quinn caught up in that.
That's going to put Miles Crabb, Ryan B. Johnson, and Ryan Steele, Miles Crabb and Daniel B. Johnson onto the lead lap. Ryan Steele will gain a lap back.
I think the car 13 is where we want to watch here on the start of this incident. That's Blake Neer. He didn't completely start it, but really that's where a lot of the action is. He's just going to get tipped into the side. Actually, maybe he did kind of start it. Himself and Thunhorst. You're going to see the bang doors. But that was trying to avoid the incident in front of them from the 51.
Oh, wow. It could have been much worse than it was, to be honest. The amount of damage that was caused by this wreck is relatively minor for most drivers. So, wow. I mean, very heads-up driving from everybody to stay out of it as much as they did.
One driver that really did a good job avoiding things was the 88 of Brophy. He was way in the back of it. There you can see he's the Kinetic car that is just weaving back and forth past the 68. Nicely done by Jason. We're going to watch from his perspective. Gosh, how do you figure out where to go?
That is just amazing precautionary driving from Jason Brophy. Man, oh man.
Already got cars in pit lane. Driscoll leading them down, but Challoner, after 14 laps of racing, decides to stay out.
Oh boy. Oh, this could be... If they go green from here to another green flag pit stop cycle, Challoner might be in trouble with this particular strategy.
Right, who's going to be out first? Driscoll should have the advantage. He's way up the pit stops. You can see him in the mint and green car, but he's not going to be the first out. Two tires takers, I believe. James Walker appears to be the first out on the lead lap, I think.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. Walker comes out ahead of Stevenson, Samuel Harris, Lionel Castillo, and Jason Brophy.
Oh,
Lionel Castillo, remember, he was the one in the outside wall recently, so he made up a lot of time.
Great job from Callisto. I mean, he tends to do this. He somehow ends up in a problem early in the race, oftentimes, in that number 2 just carefully finds his way back into contention.
Sheer will and determination combined with skill, Joe.
I think a little cleverness, too. He's one of our former champions in this series, and that's why. Wow, that lap traffic was absolutely the story of that last run. I'm kind of hoping that it isn't again. Oh, and Christian Challenger is going to change his mind. He's pitting.
Yeah, I don't think that it was going to work out for him. With 14 laps on his tires, he would have had to pit with fuel saving under the caution, probably about 15 laps later. So it just wasn't worth it.
Remember, I mentioned Brophy making his good avoiding maneuvers. That's going to net him, along with his pit stop, 5th place.
Wait, I think Christian might be working this race backwards, because from here, if he's able to run 40 laps with each stint, he'd make it to the end of the race on fuel.
Do you think the one lap will make enough of a difference?
Who knows? I mean, if there's one person I'm not going to question when it comes to oval strategy, it's Christian Challenger, to be honest. But it's going to be interesting. He's going to come out in 15th behind Joshua Chin, who also just pit for a little bit more fuel. So these two guys are very smart drivers on the oval circuit. Be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I don't dare question Christian Challenger either, but I will point out the counterpoints, if you will, to what he just did. He needs it to go green to the end, which, from what we've seen, we haven't had a green flag that long yet. And then the other point on that is that he does put himself into the danger zone, being farther back down the field here. As we go too wide, we're getting ready to restart. Be a couple cars, far fewer cars ahead of James Walker compared to what we saw ahead of Christian Challenger before. Pfeiffer, Swaby, Warling, Quinn, and Smith. Here we go. Pace car is in. Green flag is out. Everybody hits the loud pedal and gets going on lap 123 here of our 200 lap race at Daytona.
Yeah, pretty calm restart from everybody towards the front of the field. That was the 47 of Rob Powers coming out of the pits down on the bottom of the track. But here goes James Walker in that 97 red fendered Forge machine, already to the outside of Lyndon Swaby, and he's going to try and make his way up the field. He's got, I believe that's Travis Warling who's jumped up ahead of him.
That's the 90 and the UDOX car. Oh, but he had a big shake into the corner. He caught it. I don't know how. Now, that got single file through turns 1 and 2 very quickly compared to what we saw last time. It's doubled up, though, which is not what the 97 wants here. Walker thought he had a clear run all the way to the front, potentially with these lap cars behind him, but it stalled out.
Some very good runs they've got going down the back straightaway. That top line just unable to get organized, really. Mark Stevenson now in second place, tucked in behind. Oh my gosh, Walker just got a little bit loose going across the transition into 3 and 4 there. So everyone's able to hang on to it right now. But man, the top 5 are completely mixed in with these lap cars and trying to figure out what the fastest way around is.
Now, the second place driver is Stevenson in the 53. Let's get an onboard with the 88. I can't believe that Stevenson is running as fast as he is. And look at the damage on the rear of the car. I can't quite tell as well from this angle, but it is very banged up.
No offense, Joe, but the 88 ain't very much better on the rear end either. So, I mean, these cars got some serious horsepower to grip around this track at 220 miles an hour with that much damage.
Yeah, there you can really see how much it's sort of slanting to one side on the back of that car. The come around to start yet another lap, and the 97 now has clear air in front of him. Walker looking to try and take that Forge machine to the front. He's got a nose ahead of Warling, but Warling's got the low side. That's a shorter line right now, and in fact, he goes fully in front of him for a brief moment.
He does, but Walker does have his teammate Mark Stevenson just giving him a little bit of that aero push. We talked about taking the air off of the corner. Well, it affects the same thing when you're going down a straightaway like that. It reduces drag, and so you go a little bit faster. So there you go. 1 and 2 by the number 90 of Travis Warling. That is the 88 of Jason Brophy trying to do the same thing, pulling Steve Driscoll right along behind him.
Yo, man, an almost contact there between Warling and Stevenson as they start going up there. Steve Driscoll's going to drop down to the bottom side and try and go underneath Brophy, but Brophy's got some help from the 32 of Eric Smith, a lap car on the high side for the VA Apex team. So right now, it is Jason Brophy leading that top line, but look at this. Stevenson thinking about making an outside move on his teammate, trying to go around the outside, but Travis Warling going to get up in there and upset that and help push James Walker forward. Steve Driscoll is going to take the inside from Jason Brophy, who's not going to be able to get down, and now they're going to be really tight as they go through 3 and 4, but everyone hangs on to it.
A Kinetic car riding up the hill. That was Liam
He's
Quinn.
Still almost wrecking. Liam's still trying to hang on to it here through the infield. Oh my goodness, that was close.
Thankfully, he's got it under control at this point. Walker now at the point. And to those who are wondering about Christian Challoner, I think that was a good call because he's not that far down the order, even though he's got a lot of lap cars between himself and the leaders. He's in 9th already.
If everyone wonders why we're keeping our eyes on one specific driver, this was the champion of last season, Christian Challoner, and he won it. I mean, he won, what was it, 9 rounds, Joe?
I think it was 11 in the end.
Well, yeah, so that answers the question of why we keep our eyes on him, and some of those were definitely oval rounds as well. So he's one of those big players that seems to make a move towards the front every single time. So keeping track of his progress is important. But right now, James Walker's got company on that high side. He's got Travis Warling almost losing it up there. Oh, backing up into the 53 of Mark Stevenson, who's able to hang on to it. Man, this is very, very tight racing at the front of the field.
Guys, that car for Warling is absolutely going. He was in a tank slapper practically all the way through the tri-oval. I think he's holding on to that car for dear life. We're about to go 3 wide. That is the 88 of Brophy looking to the outside. He falls it back. That's going to pull him in line. The 32 and the 00 making a little bit of contact behind him.
And that is the 51's gain. Steve Driscoll is able to pull up into 2nd place as they finally get the 90 behind them. And the 53 of Stevenson settles in behind. Low line, mostly cars on the lead lap. And who is that?
He hung on to it. That's the 32. The 32 of Eric Smith hung on to that thing. Unbelievable.
That should not be possible.
Let's take a look at the replay on that one. In the midst of the pack, going sideways through the corner, we're going to watch from on board Eric Smith, the Apex car.
Like you said, DJ, should not be possible.
So we got a little bit of a chop there from Brophy. Gets up the track, just starts to lose it. Oh my goodness gracious, he's playing footsie with the apron. How did he do that?
Great stuff. He was a lap down too, so really didn't want to cause an accident amongst all of our leaders. Now it has gone single file up at the front. Pretty much all of our front-running cars and the couple laps cars that are mixed amongst them have decided it's time to calm down. We still got 70 laps to go here. They have time to try and put themselves where they want to be.
I mean, yeah, credit Eric Smith for making the save, but credit all the rest of the field for dodging him. I mean, that's not easy to do. It's hard enough to change lanes in an 87 machine, much less try and dodge a wreck that's potentially happening ahead of you. Great stuff from those guys.
97 moves high and lets the 51 of Driscoll up in front of him. Now Driscoll did get... Oh, that's a good point. That could be... Oh, we got a caution.
This is Lyndon Swaby.
44.
And Lyndon Swaby as well.
Okay, these are 2 separate incidents, I think.
Sure looks like it. Yeah, it definitely is.
Swaby's going to hit the wall on the exit of 4 in the 100 first.
There he is.
Spinning, yeah. And then behind him, I'm not sure if it was like a checkup or something, that Kinchlow found himself.
That looked very strange. But Kinchlow was the one who brought out the caution because Swaby was well off the racing line when he had his spin. Kinchlow was pirouetting across the tri-oval, so that was what brought out the caution. But that was a very strange wreck, DJ.
It really was. I mean, it almost looked like mechanical failure the way he just sort of lurched across the track like that. There's not really anything within the sim itself that I can point to.
He did brush the wall coming out of 4. I wonder if it messed up his suspension just enough that what it looked like is when he drifted back down, suddenly the car just started to veer a little bit, almost like he wasn't fully in control. So I don't know. Yeah, like you said, I think either I would blame a hardware failure or just something that he did when he touched the wall messed it up enough that he was not going to save it at about a 190 run down to the tri-oval.
So one thing I'm keeping my eyes on, Joe, is how many times people have pitted and how many times they've taken tires. The lead pack has pitted anywhere between 5 and 7 times, which means that if they took tires every single time, these folks would only have anywhere between 5 and 3 sets left of tires for the rest of this race.
Actually, I think one less than that, wouldn't it be? Because they start with a set, remember?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
We got a few coming in now. Driscoll leads many of our drivers down the lane. Some of them staying out, but are any of our lead drivers going to stay out? I don't see any of them. Pretty much every single one looking for service.
That was a very late move into the pits from Driscoll. I'm theorizing here, but I think his plan was to stay out. He saw Walker and the folks behind him diving in, and so that made him stay out. Looks like Walker is back on his way, but he started way back down. There you see him on the outside. Can anybody beat him out? There goes Driscoll.
Oh, but Driscoll was challenged by Mark Stevenson, who beats him.
Oh man, that was a great battle off pit road. A legendary battle off pit road. It's so close between all those drivers. Stevenson's going to beat him out. Driscoll in 2nd, James Walker 3rd, Samuel Harris 4th, and Jason Brophy in the 5th position.
Now, we've been talking a lot as we look at the pit comparison between Stevenson and Driscoll. Fantastic job. We're going to look at the replay one more time. We've been talking a lot about John King and how he is the charity of choice for this race. He's a huge and very important member here in the iRacing community. But I mentioned at the top of the show that part of the reason for choosing this combination, and again, hashtag racing for John, if you want to donate, check out the link in the description. The part of the reason they chose these 87 Cup cars here at Daytona is, of course, the relation to the man who drove one of these Monte Carlos back in 1987, Dale Earnhardt. He won the championship back in 1987 on 11 wins. That sounds familiar to a certain stock car driver we know today that was dominant.
Yeah, a legendary driver. Changed the face of NASCAR. Kind of remains even today, the name of NASCAR in America, and such an influential figure who really so many drivers continue to look up to this day. And it's just awesome to be able to take part in a series like this, to watch these drivers race these legendary cars around this track. And we can give a big thank you to Dale Earnhardt Jr., who jumped in with the service, is now on staff with iRacing and has helped bring this car to life.
Absolutely. I hope he's smiling watching this race right now, enjoying these vintage cars. So we're going to get going this time by starting on lap 136, and it's Mark Stevenson that will have control this time, the inside with a string of cars that are a lap down next to him, but none in front of him, importantly. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of an easier time for that Forge racing car. As we come through 3 and 4, We are down to 23 cars left on the lead lap, but 38 of them still running. We've lost Hill and Brown. McGreevy has been in pit lane for quite some time, taking repairs, unfortunately. Pace car is in, and the green flag is out. There goes Mark Stevenson, accelerating away through the tri-oval, slowly picking up speed. He's going to put a buffer between himself and Driscoll as Ryan Steele slots into line.
Yeah, fantastic move from Stevenson to take the draft away from Driscoll. Driscoll was not able to clear the lap car. And now he has to tuck in behind Ryan Steele and try and push him. He's going to actually go to the low side here. So this is an interesting moment for Stevenson. Which lane does he pick? I think he's got to block up that low side, but here comes Chase Walker. He's going to dive down to the bottom side in the 97 machine. Ooh, that was some close stuff. Here goes Ryan Steele up on that high side. And look at this. Boyd Hogan once again steaming up into that third position from absolutely nowhere.
And don't count out that number one, because here comes Christian Challoner. He's already up to fourth place, working that high side. He's going to slide it back down into the line on the low side as well. We've got a battle.
Christian Challoner now on the same pit strategy as those around him. And in fact, he's only taken 6 stops, which is the same amount as all those near him. So that extra stop that he made a little bit earlier was essentially just, I guess, a precaution on his part, maybe. And in the end, it still worked out. The top 4 are now all of our drivers battling for the lead. Stevenson, Driscoll, Hogan, and Challoner. They've got 1 lap car between themselves and 5th, James C. Walker.
Yeah, I would expect that these top 4 are going to still chill for a little bit. Remember, we still have almost just over 60 laps to go in this race, so they're not in a hurry to get anywhere. They are at the front of the field, so Ryan Steele still trying to recapture another one of his lost laps here, and it looks like we've had a spinner. Miles Crabb.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's a huge wreck in 1 and 2. Absolutely massive.
A lot of names involved in this one. I see Wayne Hutchison, Brian Barnes, Josh Chin,
Austin Espedy, Jeff Schmeier, Daniel B. Johnson.
I think this starts with Justin Kirby in the 43. Once again, cars love to get loose. These 87 Cup cars are not easy to drive down into the corner here at Daytona. It starts to go so early and then snaps on him.
There you just see that stack up effect. No, big hit in the back there. Nobody to nowhere to go. I see the 25, Liam Quinn involved in that. That looks like, is that Morton flipping over there?
Andrew Good had a great escape in the 64. We'll watch from one more angle. Wow.
That was a very big, oh my goodness, a very big one for sure. Our second big one of the day, to be honest.
29 just finding himself tumbling over and over after shortly ago. Yeah, there you see the 64. Oh, but he doesn't get away in the end. And unfortunately, I think that was Roofs that clobbered him.
Unfortunately for Roofs, he's been involved in about 4 or 5 of these wrecks. He's got to be close to that incident that we talked about at this point. So it's something that all the drivers have to keep track of, but hasn't affected the results in any of the rounds up to this point. Doesn't look like it's going to either. Now, we see Mark Stevenson playing, a little bit of games with the pace car driver up here.
But what about our pitters? I see Warling in. I see Justin Morton. Yeah, this looks like all the cars that were involved in the incident. I wonder if we're going to lose any out of that, though. I'm frankly amazed that we haven't had more that have had to call it a day after that.
I think Daniel Espedy.
Ah, there we go. Might be one of those. Daniel B. Johnson also looks to be going very, very slow. So, unfortunately, our car carrying the homage to John King in that number 6. Hopefully he can see the checkered flag for this one, but it was creeping along at less than 50 miles an hour.
will say the one thing that this will do for the leaders up front is this will pretty much guarantee that it is going to be a one-stop to the end race. So pit strategy not really coming into any of it. They'll be able to save enough fuel on this yellow flag that they will just need one more stop and they should be able to make it to the end.
Well, that simplifies things, and the one thing that does do is mean that it's all down to the racing on the track itself and who can be quick and who can be safe, as clearly the perils of driving these old NASCAR Cup cars around this track is just fraught with them.
Yeah, one of the troubles of, trying to not coming into the pits after, even short runs and grabbing tires is that you have to deal with the heat cycle on these tires, and that's part of what can make these things so difficult to drive. When you go into 1 and 2 for the first and second laps, and really even the third lap, the tires aren't quite up to operating temperature yet, so you really have to be even more gentle. Keep that wheel neutral, let the car go where it wants to go, and try not to oversteer it. And that's partly where the phrase oversteer comes from. But try not to overdrive the car into the corners, and otherwise you'll end up just having it go around like that. Even if it's a slow, lazy spin like we saw, it's nearly impossible to catch.
On to the backstretch here yet again with the lights off, and we are double file once more, waiting for Mark Stevenson to take the green. A couple quick cautions here lately, and this nearly 3/4 of the way through the race. Have had some good green flag runs at other times, so hope is not lost yet. As long as we can get a green flag run to the finish, I'll be happy here today, because I've been plenty satisfied with the racing we've seen out on track. This is an entirely new dynamic that we have not seen yet here in the majors, despite having the Daytona 500 on it for every single season thus far. As we come out of 4, Stevenson waits for the cue to go and waits for that Mustang to disappear from in front of him. Coming into the tri-oval, there goes the pace car. 53 checks them up a bit, and now he goes. Green flag is out. Oh, he gets a fantastic run over the lapped cars. Steve Driscoll in the 51 is, 3 wide maybe. I thought that was Boyd Hogan. No, he's going to give a push. He's going to try and see if he can get the 51 up there and fighting for the lead.
Very, very impressed with the drivers behind, who actually did not fall for that checkup. They actually waited until the green flag flew before they jumped on it, because they know the draft can be very, very important around here. But look at this. Christian Challenger on that high side. He's going to lose the draft here. And look at this. Boyd Hogan is going to say, all right, if you're going to drop down, Steve, I'm just going to go around you on the outside.
Christian Challenger is going to be the one helping him pretty soon. Down on the bottom side, it is Mark Stevenson in the Forge Racing 53. Across the line, Hogan's going to lead this lap, but it is a side-by-side battle between two pairs of cars. Who can get the best run?
Challenger starts to poke his nose a little bit on the higher line there, just trying to see what he can do, maximize that momentum down the backstretch. He thinks about going wide there. A little bit of contact between Driscoll and Stevenson there. That's going to cause both of them to check up, and it's now fully going to be Hogan and Challenger up ahead.
What a great move there for Hogan and Challenger, just holding it out there. Mark Stevenson thought about taking it 3 wide, but thought better of it. Ducked in behind Steve Driscoll and had to check up, and that's where the run came from.
Have 21 drivers left on the lead lap currently. We'll look up to the high side for a brief moment from Boyd Hogan, and comes back down in front of Christian Challenger.
You got to be real careful when you make that move, because if you come down just as you're entering the corner, you could actually over-rotate the car without knowing it, and then about halfway through turn 1, you'll realize you're spinning. That can happen sometimes. Boyd Hogan's car looks like he's got the slip angle very far out on that machine, but he manages to hang on to it, and he's done this around the outside of the entire race, so I'm not too nervous about it. But Christian's got to be careful, because if he takes the air off of the rear wing a little bit too much, that could send Boyd around.
once again doing the same thing, and Christian follows him a little bit this time. Drifts up to the middle lane and then comes back down low. Behind them, Ryan Steele is the one you see up on the high side. That's our lapped car, the number 12. Not really bothering them at the moment, but also not allowing anybody to attempt a high line.
Christian Chandler almost 220 going into this turn.
Joe, what Ryan Steele is doing is it's providing a little bit of a draft for Blake Neer. The 13 is now challenging Mark Stevenson for that 4th place. He has pulled himself up into this lead pack.
As they come down into turn 1 yet again, and get a little bit of help from the 96 as he once again throws it up high on the entry into turn 1 and then ducks back down low. We ride on board with the 13.
It's close. It was close. Whoa. Had a bumper on him. They had to check up because Boyd came back down, but Christian Chandler almost had a bumper on Boyd, and if he does that again and Christian gets there, I don't think Christian's going to give up that spot.
Precipitated, it looked like, by a very good run from Steve Driscoll, just giving a little bit of an arrow push to Challoner. So Driscoll's got some serious speed here. A little bit of a wiggle from Stevenson, got down under the apron. That caused him to check up, and in turn checked up Blake Neer behind him.
They're going to go by the slow Daniel B. Johnson. Only 170 is his top speed, so he's well off the track. He's trying to get around to the finish line. Unfortunately, off track right now, but look at this. Christian with a great run. Oh, 51. Mark Stevenson thought about going to the inside, but look at this. Blake Neer up the middle. He's going to go 3 wide into turns 3 and 4 and stick it.
Who has the guts to make moves like that? Let's take another watch of this one. And Blake Neer with a near miss just sees the opportunity, and that's going to get him up into 5th spot.
Absolutely picture-perfect move for Blake. Unfortunately, just not able to get around Stevenson at this point. And Stevenson's fallen back a little bit from Steve Driscoll, but we have seen anything can happen there. Everybody just kind of sliding around, figuring out where everybody likes to run.
A high side along the backstretch for our top 3. Then duck down low. Almost split up into 2 groups there for a second. Our podium runners with Hogan, Challoner, and Driscoll. They dropped Stevenson and Neer for a brief moment, but that looks like they're regaining that gap.
Oh, Stevenson got a little bit loose through the tri-oval. Blake Neer up to the high side. Look at this. Driscoll's going to look to the low side of Christian Challoner. That gives enough of a draft to Blake Neer off of Christian Challoner and Boyd Hogan to keep going on that high side. Look at how close they are. They make contact. Oh my goodness. Blake's into the outside wall. Fortunately, able to hang on to it. Holy smokes.
And Neer was getting on the radio giving a bit of a sarcastic thank you to Stevenson, but I'll be honest, I fully put that one on Blake. Look at him pinch him.
Absolutely. Way too close to the center of the corner. I think Blake was just afraid to unwind the wheel for fear of going into the outside wall. Ended up there anyway.
I think once he has some time to assess that one, he'll feel a little differently, but he drops to the back of this top group. So now it is Hogan, Challoner, Driscoll, Stevenson, and Walker, your top 5. I am impressed with the Forge Racing team here today. They are showing themselves to be a mighty force on the oval side of things. Have been front runners with multiple cars all race long. And the 14 of Nichols, who's a lap down, chops off Mark Stevenson, one of the Forge drivers I was just talking about. Oh, and now he's going to get loose in front of him.
Oh. Mark's not going to be very happy about that one at all. He's got James Walker and Matthew Thunberg's teammates tucked in behind him, but goodness gravy, Mark Stevenson had to back way out of it to avoid wrecking Nichols.
Sometimes some of the moves that I see from some of these drivers just has me scratching my head, and then other times it looks like sheer brilliance out here. These cars bring out the crazy in some of them, that's for sure.
I think that's putting it a little bit mildly, Joe. These guys get in these cars and think like they're driving around a certain movie that came out starring these cars, let's just say.
We are now officially 3/4 of the way through this race. 50 laps to go. And it is Boyd Hogan, our new leader. That lead, I actually need to check and see how many lead changes we've had at this point. It's been pretty numerous.
Definitely has. Now these guys are going to catch up to 2 lap cars up ahead of them right now. Boyd Hogan catching up to Miles Crabb and Aaron Wood. They're both going to duck down to the apron and let this lead pack go by. That's a very good move. But Christian Challenger's got to run. He thinks better of taking it into 3 and 4. Now that is good of him. I've seen multiple wrecks over the course of the international and European regions where the driver will take the momentum that they build up down the backstretch and try and dive it down to the inside right on the entry of 3 and 4. And at that point, Boyd Hogan's committed to the entry. He couldn't move. So Christian Challenger would have spun him out. But fortunately, Christian knows better and did not take that opportunity.
Riding on board now with Christian. The only driver in this series to have multiple championships in the majors. Nobody else has managed to snag 2, and on top of it, he's also the only one to have ever won in 2 different regions. He is both the European and America's champion. European in 2019 and the Americas in 2020.
He is one of the best, but guys like Boyd Hogan and Steve Driscoll not making it easy for him, nor are the Forge Racing boys. Stevenson, Walker, and Thunhorst have fully caught up to this pack. They are making things very difficult.
Way up to that high side. You gotta worry a little bit about Steele. He got awful close to the outside wall, and we've already seen the marbles cause drivers to just drift up into the barrier because of that a few times. So I hope Steele, I mean, so far, credit to him, the 12 has not been getting in the way with them too much, but I'd hate to see another incident with a lapped car take out or compromise some of our leaders.
Same here, Joe, but at the same time, we saw in the European region Riley Thompson do the exact same thing from six laps down. Staying out there on that high side, a little bit of a, bug in the ointment for the leaders, but that being said, he's trying to make those laps back, so he's got some work to do. Currently 3 laps down, trying to gain those laps back on raw pace, and look at this. Look at this, Steve Driscoll being stranded on that low side. He's trying to hang on to it here, but wow, look at this. That's Mark Stevenson trying to go by on the outside, can't get the job done, has to drop him down.
Again, Steele was there and offered him no way through. You wouldn't think it's this narrow here around Daytona, but in these old 87 Cup cars, it really is just about single file. And Steele put himself up on the line.
Oh no, oh Boyd, almost spinning it into 1 and 2. That was very close. Able to hang onto that thing and ride it out through the corner, but that was very, very close for Boyd.
Yeah, I think that's exactly because of what I just mentioned. Boyd couldn't take the line that he's been taking, which is take it up high, pull it down low, and look, he's trying to do it again as best he can, but the 12 is up onto his outside, kind of denying him that chance. Steele's 3 laps down currently. He's trying to stay way up to the outside here for the 96. There we go. That looks a little less scary, rather.
He's got healthy comparative of Mark Stevenson, who currently is tucked into that 3rd position, up above Driscoll and Challoner. So, but they're going to catch up to the lap car of Justin Morton, who I'm not sure where he's going to go to avoid this, but it's going to be tight.
Driscoll takes a little look down the inside. Here comes Stevenson on the outside, forcing it up once again. They're about to catch up with Morton. This could get a little bit hairy.
Nope, he's going to dive it down. Yep, he's going to take his pit stop just to make sure he stays out of their way. Now, interesting note here. Josh Chin is back on the lead lap, and he's with this group. He's in 9th place. Remember, Adam, how you were talking about drivers if they had taken tires every single stop. Chin's on 12 stops. Now, clearly he hasn't taken them every single stop. In fact, I'd wager he still has at least a couple left to the end, but he has been in more than any other driver around him. In fact, twice as many as most of those other drivers up for the lead.
Absolutely, but he's trying to jam as much fuel into that thing as possible. It's possible that he did most of his testing on full fuel, so at that that point, you want that car to be as comfortable as it can be. And if you did your testing on full fuel, then you want to ride around on full fuel as well. And it's not affecting his straight line speed at all. And he's been involved in a couple of the wrecks that we've seen. So the fact that he's up to 9th is genuinely impressive. But that being said, it's all single file up ahead of them. These guys are riding, so there's not much room to try and make a pass.
Well, it did just get a little bit easier for our leaders as that lap saw Ryan Steele fall well back in the order. So now Hogan, Challoner, Driscoll, Stevenson, Walker, and Thunhorst all able to be running their own race here. Samuel Harris and Andrew Waring behind them as well. The top 8 now, no lap traffic around them for a little bit.
It's the first time we've seen that in quite a while as well. So this will be fascinating to see. It has looked relatively calm, but I wonder if that is the trick. Now that they've gotten rid of that lap traffic, does this mean that they all kind of know the deal, that they all have decided it's time to make it to this last pit stop, and then we can figure out who's going to win this race?
I think that's what's going on here. We're just going to chill and ride until we get to the final pit stop, because once you start those green flag stops, I mean, it really is every man for himself, and especially if we get another caution, I mean, who knows where that's going to come out, and who knows how that's going to affect people. Now, our first car that is not on the strategy of our leaders is Liam Quinn, down in 13th. Liam has been on the off of the lead lap for over half of this race, and is now on the lead lap, currently in the 13th position on 20-lap old tires. Now, the rest of the guys ahead of him on 27-lap old tires. So that, I think Liam Quinn, if there's another wreck during our green flag pit stops and he's able to stay out, is in the best position.
We had a car at the bottom of the track on the backstretch, no caution with them, trying to figure out who it was. It was Lyndon Swaby. Single car incident. I think he may have even blown his engine, actually.
Lyndon, that number 100 machine, he was up there. He's out of the car, so unfortunately that's going to be another DNF for us. So Lyndon Swaby, yeah, blown engine, like you said, Joe.
Bad way to end of the day. This far into the event, and you won't be able to see the checkered flag. Now, about those cautions and when they've been happening, I don't have the stats in front of me. I do feel like a number of them have happened when they get a long enough green flag run to take pit stops. Because about, I think twice now, we've had half the cars have pitted, and then suddenly we get a yellow.
It's happened about two or three times. Yeah, so about 40 laps into a stint is where we'll see the yellow come out, and that's due to the chaos that comes with trying to do the green flag pit stops. And it seems like we're on a long green flag run right now, so unless anyone makes a mistake, which is totally possible, I mean, that's going to be what this front group's going to be stressing about, is that they're going to have to come in before folks like Liam Quinn, Jeff Schmeier, Jason Wallet, Nick Kuhn, Vincent Laherbier, and Joshua Chin, who are all on that different strategy, who are able to hit about 5 to 7 laps later than them. Because if they come in and they get trapped a lap down like we've seen before, this is a whole new race.
Absolutely. We come across the line. Still got a few laps before they need to come in. They're on 30 to 31 laps into their fuel stint. Much of this front group that we've been watching now. The sun starting to get a little bit lower in the sky as we've reached nearly 4 p.m. virtual standard time here in Daytona, Florida. Up at the front, that is the 96 of Boyd Hogan that you see leading. He has been in that top point for a number of laps here in this last stint. Christian Challoner has been chasing him in the number 1, the black car behind him. Steve Driscoll in the number 51, the mint green and black car, is sitting in 3rd, and Mark Stevenson is in P4. In one of our Forge racing machines, which has, it looks like 3 in a line, Walker and Thunhorst, also part of that group. So could they be the big threat with them able to work together?
Joe, you read my mind. That was exactly what I was thinking about. The 3 of them running there, all able to team up. They're going to be on their own separate communication where they're able to talk about strategy and what to do. And I would not be surprised if we see a, frankly, Team Penske-esque dynamic out of them. You see them working their way by. That is Morton up on the high side that they're able to go by. Penske is very famous. It is all you play by the team rules until about the last 10 laps, and then it is gloves off and everyone for themselves.
Yeah, we haven't seen many of the teams been able to really find each other as much in this race. The Forge guys have been so successful that it's a little easier for them to all kind of clump in a group. And those three all in position. Again, that is in 4th, 5th, and 6th that they run currently. Sending it in, chucking it in, down into turn 3. And getting very close to the back of the 51. Stevenson, hope he doesn't take the air off of him there. That's the last thing we need right now is a caution.
Interesting thing to note. Blake Mears just making a pass on Joshua Chin for the 9th position. Joshua actually moved up out of the groove to let Blake Mears by. I think he knows that Blake is moving forward and wants to move forward, so didn't want to really risk any sort of accident with Blake up ahead of him. But one person who I'm concerned about is Boyd Hogan. He has been leading this for a long time. Just like we saw with Fitz at the Herbier, that can amount to a 1-lap difference on pit stops, if not more. So if it's a little bit too late in the run to do a swap, but Boyd... Oh my goodness, we almost had a wreck in the back. That was Andrew Waring and Blake Neer who got together.
Waring with a monster save here. If we can get a replay on the 336, he got some help. Blake Neer just going to tip the back of him. Woo!
Blake Neer definitely in a hurry to get to the front.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Well, we saw Blake running near the top early on, so he clearly has some speed left in that machine to try to get up there.
He sits in 8th still. Waring actually was for position, so he falls back to 9th with that.
Blake Neer making a move on Samuel Harris, getting very close to the door. Same thing that caused his last incident. He's now going to make it past Samuel Harris and try and duck down in line in front of him. Sam's going to check up a little bit to let Blake Neer in, but Blake definitely intent on getting up to the front of this pack before the pit stop.
A little bit of a better run off of turn 2 from the 53. He's up on the high side. Driscoll sees it. He hangs low. So he's going to slot back into 4th. Oh, but he gets into the 53. He tips him around. Caution is out as he spins up to the high side. Did we get away with a single car wreck?
Yes, just barely, but I think Blake Neer took some damage as well.
My goodness, Stevenson has got to be fuming inside of that car. I don't know if this is a racing deal or...
I don't think... it might have been a little bit of ghost contact, but I mean, the 51 had to know, like, the 53 was ducking down. He was trying to get in front, so the 51 maybe just didn't think that Mark was going to go down there. I guess Steve just didn't expect him to actually make the move.
Yeah, I didn't see any ghost contact from my end. That was actual bumper to bumper. And
Mark
Stevenson,
is not happy.
Yeah, he's expressing his displeasure for sure. Not only does that send him well down the order, but that was significant damage. I mean, compared to what he had before, it's even more than that. There you see it on the rear.
Yeah, but this is pit stop territory, guys. If they pit here, they can go to the end on fuel.
A lot of drivers seemed happy about the caution with the timing of it, because this certainly makes it nice and easy to figure out how to work it. But the question is now, who can get out with that track position?
Exactly, and to the surprise of nobody, you see all of the leaders diving down pit lane here. The one thing that is going to make people, the people that are going to be angry about that, guys like Joshua Chin and Jeff Schmeier, who were on that alternate strategy, that advantage is now negated.
Now they got to do it the old-fashioned way. Get up to the front and see if they can take the lead away and hold it. You can see the 53 back there. That's let's see how much damage he's able to get repaired if he stays around and tries to get it banged on with a sledgehammer, or if he's going to take off with everybody else. No, he's sticking around. He's got to get that repaired, unfortunately. Heartbreak for Stevenson. That's one less of the Forge cars up at the front. But I think that's a good time for us to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. The last 30 laps to go here on the Daytona 500. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway. Round 2 in the majors is the Daytona 500. This time, it is going to be Christian Challenger who leads as we come back to the green. And he's got Boyd Hogan behind him, so it is switched around from what we saw before the stops. And Driscoll still back in third. Walker and Thunhorst, the two Forge Racing cars, are going to be 4th and 5th. What is this going to look like? Because from here, it is a dash to the line. There are no more pit stops needed for anybody out on the track. Will it be frantic? Will we see more cautions from this? And who has saved enough tires that maybe if we get a caution late, they can put some on and get an advantage? Green flag is out, and Christian Challenger takes off. What's the low line going to do here at this point? Do they decide it's late enough in the race to maybe try and drop back?
Interesting to see Challenger stay up on that high side, because we see Boyd Hogan duck down the road. Christian's going to arc it into the corner, try and carry more speed through. Boyd Hogan's going to catch right up to his rear bumper and give him a nice little push through the corner. Steve Driscoll, though, trapped on that high side, trying to make it past those lap cars. Boyd and Challenger are gone. We have a car off in the back of the pack. I believe he's just falling back to the back, possibly with some damage. Boyd and Challenger, that's a massive gap of almost half a second.
Huge push from the 96 on the one. Just got linked up to him and did him all the way down the straightaway. Here they come flying off of 4 now onto the front stretch, and the gap between them at the line, P2 and P3, is a full half second.
Riding on board here with Steve Driscoll, trying to catch up to that leading pack. You see him hugging that down line on the apron, trying to pick up whatever draft he can down the back stretch. He's been able to close that gap now to about 4.5 tenths of a second, so he is closing, as are Walker, Thunhorst, and Joshua Chin behind him.
Oh my goodness, Chin is up to 6th. He just overtook Andrew Waring. So he's got this in his mind that it's go time. He was hanging out at the back for, who knows, maybe about 30 laps last time. As he comes up beside the number 98 of Matthew Thunhorst. He's got a bit of steam. Can he complete the pass? No, he drops back a little bit.
He's actually, those fresh tires really helping him out to try and hang out there. That's Miles Krabs. They're going by on the bottom side, just having exited pit lane from another fuel stop himself to make it to the end of the race. Joshua Chin now looking on the high side above Matthew Thunhorse. He's going to try and arc it into the corner. I'm sure Thunhorse is talking to Walker saying, hey man, don't go up there and help out Chin. You're giving him the draft that I need to stay ahead of the guy.
2:21 at the end of the back stretch for Josh Chin. He is booking it. Wonder if he can time it right. Can he manage to get side by side with Thunhorst? And then from there, can he actually get ahead of him? They chuck it down into turn one more time as Josh Chin in that number 98, or excuse me, in that number 93 rather, next to the 98, continues to try to see what he can do on Thunhorst. He's side by side this time in 3. Once again, very strong into the banking here in that Monte Carlo.
Looks like Sam Harris is going to join him up on that high side, try and give him a little bit of a shove.
Our leader just brushed the wall. That was Challoner going a little bit high. I think if he didn't touch it, it was centimeters away. Let's take a look from above on the replay and zoom in a little bit. See if we can see whether or not he touched this. Here we go. Watch Challoner, the lead black car, the number 1, coming out of turn 4 here.
I believe we're actually still live right now.
Yes, we are actually. Well, looks like we won't be able to get that one. So, as we continue to watch, he hasn't lost the lead, incredibly. And look at things getting a little bit frantic from behind. Sam Harris going side by side with Kalisto, Thunhorst, and Josh Chin still trying to work. Oh, but Chin brushes the wall. He's trying to get out of it, but he's also trying not to run into the cars. Can he hold on to the slipstream? They're starting to edge away from him.
Oh, he just got up into those marbles, Joe. Not able to pull it back down the gap. Now sitting.
And just as we went away, the 42 got shoved by the 2. Here's the incident coming into the corner, though. That's Chin in the Kinetic Racing car. Sparks are flying. And he has not lost the slipstream, incredibly.
No, he hasn't lost
Sam Harris at the back of it.
Yeah, he hasn't lost it because Sam Harris also fell back, so those two should be able to claw their way back on as long as they don't make another mistake.
Oh, we've had a wreck. Sorry, the 88 of Brophy down on the apron along with Johnny Nichols in the 14. No caution because they are off the racing line. And a third car, I think that is Clark Archer in the 3.
And the 14 as well. This is actually a pretty big wreck. Watch this happen from above here.
Yeah, they're going to have a huge hit down into the barrier on the left-hand side, out of the tri-oval.
Oh, man.
Just miscommunication.
Oh.
Lights out. So those 3 probably out of contention now. 88 trying to keep running, but I'm not sure how much he has. Meanwhile, up at the front, it's getting spicy as that was an absolute block. Christian Challoner threw it on the inside to keep Boyd Hogan from using a run that he got with help from Steve Driscoll behind.
Yeah, Challoner knows that it is starting to get into now or never time with 20 laps to go, but Hogan gets another good run, checks up ever so slightly. They're coming through the tri-oval. You see the cars behind him checking up as well. There you see in the back, that is Chin and Harris separating out. They are fully in this. Kalisto really the only one on that super high line, but it looks like Harris is going to jump up to be with him.
Kalisto absolutely slinging it on the outside trying to get by, but look at this, Sam Harris trying to be as opportunistic as possible. He's going to go back down to the bottom side and hang and hook up with Andrew Waring, but Christian Challoner was trying to look, he's looking at his mirrors, he's trying to keep Boyd Hogan tucked in behind him. He's trying to leave Boyd with nowhere to go, but Boyd Hogan, we know how quick he is, and we also know that he can make a pass on the outside. So Hogan, part of the Legacy Esports team, he's really, I think, biding his time. Just under 20 to go, 19 to go this time by.
I think you're right, Adam. And if I'm Boyd Hogan, I'm going to keep sticking my nose down the inside of Challoner for these last 19 laps. Just make him sort of think about it and then throw that outside move where I know I'm fast when he least expects it.
He's going to give him a push this time. Links up with the number 1. Flying down the backstretch and into turn 3. Doesn't get him any advantage over Steve Driscoll in the meantime, though.
Absolutely in love with this racing right now. It's so intense up at the front of the pack. Everyone's just right on each other's bumpers. They are flying down these straightaways. Now, the top 9 are all tucked into this pack with Joshua Chin right off the back of it. Vincent LaHerbe, oh my goodness. And actually, that was Lionel Kalisto and Sam Harris who almost made contact going down into turn 1. Sam Harris throwing a very heavy block on Lionel that pushed him below the yellow line. As our drivers work their way along the backstretch. Once again, they get single file, and all 9 of these cars that you see in this group are on the lead lap. There is no lapped cars to get into the fray.
Got it. Oh, you ride on board there for a second with them, with Hogan. Oh!
That was Sam Harris, unfortunately down to the inside after he got a touch from Lionel Kalisto. Didn't hit anything, but he is out of contention.
And no caution either. I think Lionel ran out of patience with Samuel. Just didn't check up when he caught up to the rear bumper. Ended up giving him a little bit of a shot that sent him through the infield. Remember, Sam Harris is the one who threw the block on Lionel just a lap ago on the backstretch. So now Sam Harris at the bottom getting freight trained by the rest of the pack.
Yeah, he just has no speed at this point. So, up at the front, we've mentioned a lot about Challoner and being the most winningest driver in the majors. Let's not forget, Steve Driscoll is tied for 5th on most wins here, and that is with the entire history of the majors. He's on 5 right now, looking for number 6. And I think he might have a good shot at it here today, depending on how things play out.
I was thinking the same thing, Joe. Driscoll sitting back in that popcorn position, watching Hogan and Challoner just kind of fight it out. You see him taking a couple of different lines through the corners, just figuring out where he's got the speed on this last set of tires. I'm looking at Driscoll here as we start closing down into single digits.
Andrew Waring just made a pass on Matthew Thunhorse to get himself into the top 5. He's trying to make another move around the outside of James Walker, and with Driscoll drifting up high, that gave him a little bit of a run, but he's not going to be able to do so. Has to tuck in front of Thunhorse, who thinks about going high. Look at that, Andrew Waring trying to put his bumper there. Oh, the 51 makes him move down to the bottom side of James Walker, trying to cover up that inside line, hoping that James won't take it in the 3-4. Hang on to it. Everyone stays in their positions as they go through the next corner.
They're getting frisky out there, making a few moves that earlier in the race wouldn't have sat well, but now that the win is on the line, nobody's willing to give up track position. And I think maybe that's become the key part of this race here at the end. Track position does look to be king.
Yes, it does, Joe, but I think as we start to tick down closer and closer to that checkered flag, the gloves are going to come off. There seems to be still a little bit of restraint, albeit not a whole lot, that these drivers are exhibiting. Hoy, yoy, as I say that, not proving my point as the Forge drivers.
Oh, Josh Chin trying to get back into the fray. He took a little bit of a move, but with how much damage he probably got from his meeting with the wall, I don't think he's going to have the pace. Man, everybody wheeling these things hard at this point.
That's Andrew Waring that we're riding on board with, tucked in behind the 97 of James Walker. He's been trying to get by for a couple laps. He's going to look to the outside through 1. Walker has been walking pretty aggressively on the low side, but he seems content to let Waring run the high line. Waring actually washing out a little bit through the corner, and here tucks in Matthew Thunhorse to try and block off Waring from getting down to the bottom side, but Waring's got a little bit of draft from Driscoll up ahead, who's tucked in behind Boyd Hogan and Christian Challoner, who's currently leading this race. But the two Forge drivers just blocking off Waring, and now he's got nowhere to go. He's going to keep falling back, and he's going to lose a position to Lionel Kalisto as well.
I'm surprised that we haven't seen Thunhorst hook up with Walker and really push him to the front. He's running out of laps to try and do so.
I think it might be go time now, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if he does it this time through, as we're down to 12 laps to go. 500 miles, and it is all down to these 8 drivers now. 7 seconds back to the next car's back, and they show no signs of catching them as they come down the backstretch. I've watched Boyd Hogan look very fast off of turn 2 a number of times. I'm starting to agree that he's playing possum.
Yeah, and you just saw him there. He had a big run coming down off that corner, checked up a little bit, about 3/4 of the way down the straightaway. I think that's partially not wanting to wreck the car, partially not wanting to do anything
and we got
else.
a caution.
Oh, Mark Stevenson is in the middle of the track. Oh my goodness, I can't believe they dodged that.
That was Stevenson losing the car off of 4. Oh, and it's going to be 2 cars, actually. Andrew Wood in front of him. I think this is target fixation. Watch the 64 in front of him, and he's going to be transfixed. Boom.
And now he's spinning, he's pirouetting, he's trying to lock this thing down. He does lock it down. He sees the pack coming and decides, I better just stay.
I know that made for a very terrifying situation for the lead drivers, but I kind of have to give credit to Stevenson on that. Yeah. That is making the best of a very bad situation.
Yes. Look at this. Look at this. This is Christian Challenger. Oh, my goodness.
Did he even lift there?
Not that much. The throttle trace shows just a little bit there.
Hashtag never lift.
You can make it through, Cole. I believe it. The number 1 is now going to have the restart. Who dares to come in for tires?
19 laps into the stint.
Hogan's flirting with it.
He's going.
He's not flirting with it. He's doing it.
Joshua Chin's in as well.
Ooh, and Chin needs those tires. He's down on speed. Quinn is in. LaHerbier. Now, those were drivers who were in the... Yeah.
Everybody behind Boyd Hogan and Joshua Chin is coming into the pits. It's only going to be 6 drivers at the lead of this pack with no tires. 20-lap-old tires on those guys. Oh, boy.
If you thought this race was good before, ladies and gentlemen, it's about to get fascinating.
Will it stay green to the end, though?
Left side's only for Joshua.
Will that be enough to give him an advantage to run up through and into the lead?
Wow, Liam Quinn, Jeff Schmeier also only took 2 tires. So that puts Boyd Hogan down to 10th, the first car on 4 tires.
Let's remember, they're doing this old school style, not just with how they line up on these restarts. There's no green-white checkers. If they get a caution in the last 4 or 5 laps, that's it. Whoever's in the lead takes the victory.
And DJ, you caught something interesting on the voice comms for the race commander, correct?
Yes, we are now into the area where they will send the lapped cars to the back, guys. So this is going to mean a clear track for our leaders, and the drivers like Josh Chin, Liam Quinn, Jeff Schmeier that came out ahead of all of the guys who made the pit stops, they're going to be bunched right up behind the guys who didn't pit.
Wow. After all of this, after 500 miles, it's going to come down to a sprint to the finish with mixed strategy. Please do not go away because you are in for a wild one. I believe that was Stevenson we saw heading off into pit lane. No, that was Justin Morton, actually, who is 6 laps down. So he's not in contention. He's just getting some last little service before we go racing at the end. But it looks like we still have the lights on the pace car. No, they are out.
Yeah, they're sending the cars to the back of the field, the lap cars to the back, so Joshua Chin will pull up right in behind Lionel Calista with 2 extra tires. Boyd Hogan will be tucked in behind Jeff Schmeier in that 10th position with 4 tires.
We are down to only 34 cars still running. Nope, make that 33 as Stevenson has not been able to get back out on track. We've lost Brown, Hill, Espedy, Roofs, Kirby, Johnson, Swaby, and most recently, Mark Stevenson, unfortunately.
Well, are the tires going to be enough? Can Christian Challenger hang on to this thing? Is Steve Driscoll going to sell him a dummy and try a move that we haven't seen yet today? We're all about to find out those answers as they get ready for a single file restart with no lapped cars on the inside.
I mean, based on the fact that cautions tend to breed cautions, I don't know about you, DJ, but if I'm one of the drivers behind, I go immediately. I try for that lead as quick as I can.
I am not waiting around whatsoever. The minute I see that green flag fly, if I'm Josh Chin, I am on the loud pedal and booking it.
8 laps to go on this restart, as Christian Challenger is going to have control of the field. Can he hit that mark of 25 wins? There goes the pace car. Green flag is out, and they're on it. Everybody starting to pick up speed already, looking to the inside. And that's actually the 2 of Lionel Kalisto. Oh, but look at this monster start as Josh Chin is already gaining positions. Those tires, either he got a jump on everybody or those tires are helping him immensely.
Now, it's a poor start for Andrew Waring. You see how far back of the forged machines he is, but now he's starting to gain in that draft. That's Joshua Chin on the outside. Boyd Hogan's going to go to the outside now on those 4 tires. The 4 fresh tires are going to try and catch up to the back of Joshua Chin and push him forward. They have a good run. Remember, Boyd Hogan, he made his name on the outside all the way through this race. He's got an opportunity with Josh Chin. Looks like he's got a real handful of a car underneath him up ahead of Boyd. You can see him absolutely sliding it through the corner.
Remember, Chin is on 2 tires, so half of that car is running on old rubber. And that's probably what's affecting the handling. He's managed to get up to 5th. Is this where he stalls out? We come into 1 and 2.
No, he's going around!
Oh, and he's into the wall. He
hangs onto it.
He keeps it from bouncing back, but this means the win is not on for the 93. So now the driver with fresh tires is Boyd Hogan, but he's in 7th as he had to give up. He had to check up because of that.
He's got plenty of time to get back, though, DJ.
He does indeed, but he has got a long way to go. He is about a full second back of those leaders, so he is going to have his work cut out for him. But here we go.
Lionel Kalisto now making the run on the high side. We ride on board with Hogan as he tries to gain back up to that top group, almost banging doors in front of him. The 2 in the 97 getting awful close.
Oh, the 2 almost went around through 1 and 2. What's similar to what we saw with Josh Chin. Those tires really starting to get old. Now, okay, this is going to be the second full lap of racing. After this lap, they should be up to temperature for those tires. But Boyd Hogan already to the back of those guys. He's the 3rd car on the high side.
Kalisto, 4 wins to his mark, and look at how he's getting into this thing, but he's hanging it way around the outside. He gets into the marbles, loses a little bit of traction. Waring up behind him as he almost loses the car. He catches the tail. He's still in 4th, though.
That was an amazing bit of car control. He got his right rear tire up onto the marbles. That's what started that spin, and he was able to collect that tail slapper. But there you see Boyd Hogan with the fastest lap of the race. That 96 is coming on strong.
This late in the race, he's not giving up on it. It is still Christian Challenger leading this thing with Driscoll in the 51 chasing.
Boyd Hogan below the yellow line here. He's going to have to back out of it.
Yeah, he does. He does. He gives it back. That got sketchy. I almost think he got pushed down there.
He was all alone by himself, 2 car lengths up ahead of the cars behind. He just was looking down there to try and maintain his momentum. Unfortunately, Liam Quinn stuck it down that yellow line, didn't let him in, so Boyd had to give up that spot. He doesn't have anywhere to go, Boyd Hogan. He's got 2 cars that are really struggling on handling on that high side, and a whole stack of cars down on the low side. Oh my goodness, Kalisto into the outside wall. There he goes.
Another driver falling victim on the entry into turn 1. He doesn't wreck, so now that is another one down. Challenger continues to lead as it is the point of no return. 4 laps to go. If we get a caution, it ends this race. Everybody wants to be up at the top. Waring sideways. He catches it. No, he loses it again. He's into the outside wall. Another one gone. They're dropping like flies.
And Boyd Hogan learned his lesson. He has not lost any time. He is still staying right in this. He's now up behind Liam Quinn, making the move to the outside.
Driscoll hits the outside wall.
Exactly. Just brushed it. He may have gotten away with it, but this allows James Walker down to his inside in the 97. He's going to be able to get into second place. Can he do anything on the one?
Absolutely lightning down the back straightaway as they go. And look at this, a bump drive for Christian Challoner. James Walker trying to push him through the corner. He's going to try and leave Driscoll behind so he can get his fourth teammate up there to help him try and make a move around the outside of Christian. Christian's going to stick to that yellow line unless prompted to do otherwise. Boyd Hogan actually losing a little bit of position now. Sam Harris in the 42 after his spin is now back up into this battle in the 7th position. Here they go across the line. It's 2 to go.
If they make one more lap, it is official, and we will have a green flag finish. But can they make it that far? As Driscoll drifts up too high, 3 wide, he's going to fall back. It was the lightest of brushes for the 51.
Boyd moved him.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, and getting close to each other back there in 4th. That's Hogan with Quinn below him. They separate, giving each other more space. Come on, boys. We only need to get through 2 more corners. Christian Challoner up at the front, looking at the white flag as they come down through the tri-oval. We are going to finish under green. Challoner has had the advantage. He's got James Walker behind him, but it's 2 teammates together who could try and maybe push past. Do they manage to work together to try and take the victory away and steal it from our multi-time champion? Hooked up quite yet as they come off of 2. Down the backstretch. Here comes Walker. Down to the low side. Christian's going to block. Up to the high side. The high side has worked sometimes around 3 and 4, but not every time. The 97 has momentum. A bump to the 25. Quinn's going to get loose. Are they going to be able to hold on behind him? 3 wide. They catch it. And off the corner. Looking for the run. I don't think Walker has it. It is going to be win number 25 for Christian Challoner as all of them behind wind up in a pile. A win for the Daytona 500 for Christian Challoner.
What an unbelievable race that we had to the line. So much quick moves there. Boyd Hogan gonna come up and give Christian Challoner a little bump of respect there. Christian on his 25th win. He worked for this one today.
And that wreck to the line started with Sam Harris and Liam Quinn in the 25. And I think it was a little bit of ghost contact, so unfortunately maybe that one shouldn't have happened. Multiple cars getting into it, and Quinn actually goes up and over. This is, I think, our first blowover of the day. This is the replay onto the backstretch.
And Vincent Laherbier crosses the line 7th on his lid. This is the final lap. There they go into the corner on turn 4. 25 trying to hang on to it. It's 3 wide between all of them, and the 42 just gets a little bit of a nudge, and there they go around, wrecking, and there's the blowover from the 25. Vincent Laherbier in the 27 kept his foot in it and actually ended up crossing the line on his lid. There he goes.
That is wild stuff. That's going to take us to a quick break, though, here on the Global Sim Racing channel. A Daytona 500 for the ages, and a memorable one, I'm sure, for this man, Christian Challoner, as he burns it down. Stick around, because we'll have driver interviews coming up in a moment. welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. After 500 miles, we have our winner, and it was Christian Challenger, who took his 25th win of his races here in the majors, with James Walker finishing second. He was one of our drivers who did not qualify. He came from 38th, with Matthew Thunhorst starting on the front row and winding up in third in the end. Boyd Hogan had a little controversy post-race. Definitely was talking it out with a few drivers. He went from 18th to 4th. Steve Driscoll was P5. Then, how about this? Another driver coming from the very back, 36th to 6th for Brian Barnes. LaHerbier, he qualified, and it was 30th. He wound up in 7th in the end. David Hanger wound up 8th, and Wayne Hutchison in 9th, with Andrew Waring finishing 10th.
Jason Wall comes home in 11th position. Didn't talk about him much today, but a very consistent run from 25th up to 11th position for Jason. Jason Brophy, on the other hand, fell a couple positions down to 12th. He was up there battling for the lead at one point, but not a great finish, unfortunately, for him. Jeff Schmeier comes home in 13th, with Nick Kuhn in 14th. Samuel Harris, also one of those next to Blake Neer, battling up towards the front of the pack. They finish in 15th and 16th. Lionel Kalisto, unfortunately, after hitting the outside wall on the final run, comes home in 17th, with Joshua Chin, similar story, coming home in 18th position in front of Liam Quinn and Travis Warling, who round out your top 20.
Coming home in 21st was Eric Smith, 2 laps down. David Hall and Jimbo Pfeiffer behind him. Mark Stevenson in 24th, and then Clark Archer was 25th with 3 laps down. Behind him, Brian Bennett and Ryan Steele, Rob Powers, Lynn Kinchlow, and Johnny Nichols to round out your top 30.
31st went to Justin Morton, and a poor Miles Crabb, who looked like a front runner for much of the race, wound up 32nd. Andrew Wood, 33rd, and Brian McGreevy, 34th. He was our last finisher. Everybody from there on down that you see was a DNF today, sadly. But of our 41 starters, Christian Challenger wound up with the win. So, as our current champion comes to talk to us, Christian, congratulations on the victory. It looked incredibly intense after that last restart.
Yeah, that was extremely wild. It's a strange thing to say how intense that is, just when everybody's in a single file and everything. But the thing is just so hard to hold on to, and it was just I was trying to run that line. Gotta actually say big thanks to Boyd Hogan for kind of putting me in the know on that line, because it really helped when I was kind of running with him. We sort of figured out that you couldn't really be passed if you ran like that. So when the situation was reversed, it was pretty key to how I actually won that right there. So yeah, I got to say thanks to him for sort of cluing me in with kind of 50 to go to do that. But yeah, absolutely, just a crazy deal, man. The whole time the car is just absolutely out of control, and it's extremely fun. But we're 200 laps of it, and my stream counter says that it was 3 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. So it's just crazy. But I'm so glad to actually finally get that one. Been trying to get that for a long time.
I'm sure it felt like a lot more than 3 hours. Talk to us, though, about that last wreck that caused the final caution. We had some debate up in here. Did you lift coming up to that stopped car?
Yes, sort of. Okay, so the thing is, right, I sort of saw it, and I was like, I'm going to lift when I get there, because what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to lift super early, because he's obviously spinning on his own. It doesn't generate the yellow on its own. The car has to be in proximity to it, right? So I know that if I lift a lot, there's a probability I'm going to get passed, and then the yellow is going to come out when somebody else reaches it. So I'm like, I'm not going to lift, especially when I saw that he was stationary anyway. I was like, okay, I can just go buy that on the apron, and yeah, I could. But then there was a whole lot of latency with my own brain after that, because the yellow was out, the pace car was out, and then I just stood on the brakes, and I could have apologized to the guys behind me that really nearly caught out. It nearly ruined my own race right there, because I just stood on. I'm trying to get stopped for the pace car, and there's probably really no need to do that. But it's a long race, and I definitely do not feel 100% at this point, as you could probably tell by listening to me. So that's probably got something to do with it.
Now, of course, your involvement with Black Adder and Kinetic, I have to imagine this one is probably pretty special considering this was all centered around John King tonight. I mean, any special thoughts about what this one means?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So before the race and kind of a couple of days ago, one of the old Black Adder members, John Medeiros, was putting together these paints, and another driver in here who was running the 6 tonight in honor of John, Daniel Johnson, also showed me that he had one of the old school retro Black Adder schemes on the go, and I really wanted one, and honestly, if the opportunity had kind of presented itself to push the 6 to the win instead of myself, then I was 100% game to do it. I wanted to see the 6 win the race. That was a huge part of it to me, but unfortunately for Dan, he kind of had some early incident. I think it was actually the lap 1 incident, which kind of took him out of play immediately, and it took him a long while to get back. And then, unfortunately, he lost his spare car as well. So after that point, I was 100% committed to just trying to park the car. Absolutely, the only thing really that I was thinking of was how cool it would be to win that race with the Black Adder scheme, for the whole team, for John and everybody that has kind of been associated with everything to do with the Racing for John initiative. And yeah, I wanted that one badly, just for that, the whole reasoning behind the car and everything. I was probably going to go to some pretty extreme lengths to avoid being passed at the end there.
I can tell that it really did mean a lot. Congratulations, Christian, and hopefully we'll get to see you next month when we head off to Long Beach.
Thank you, Joe.
Was Christian Challoner winner here today. And then up next, I believe that DJ has caught up with James Walker, second place.
James, that looked like an absolutely epic run to the finish. You were hassling Christian all the time on those last 8 laps or so. Talk me through what it was like coming from that final restart to the checkered flag.
I was just hanging on for dear life. These cars are so difficult to drive. We're sideways, we're slinging it through the corners. But, luckily, I had Matt behind me, and he was doing all the defending, so I could just sit there and wait until the last few laps.
Well, that's why they have teammates in this series. I am certain of it. And I did want to ask you on that last round through, want to know about the choice to not take tires. We thought that was really going to come back to bite you guys, Josh Chin and Hogan, those guys coming up from behind. But it worked out for you. So just talk me through that mentality to make that gutsy call to stay out.
Well, in the duels and the practice races we'd noticed that tire wear wasn't really bad, so you could get away with staying out, and the fresh tires wouldn't be able to run you down, at least to a point. And we thought it was just like right on our window. We could stay out, the fresh tires wouldn't catch us, and we'd be able to race it to the finish.
Well, I'd certainly say that it worked out for you. And, obviously this night was more than just about racing. It's about Mr. King and all of that. And just wondering if you had any thoughts about racing for John tonight.
Yeah, well, my team, Forge, wouldn't exist without him. But I really got to thank him for that.
Of course, he was a very special guy that I think touched a lot of people in this series. And it is so very tragic, and so at the same time wonderful to see what this series can do for him to be in him. Congratulations on a second place run like this. I know this is an exhausting race, so I don't want to keep you too long, but anybody else you need to thank tonight before we let you go?
I want to thank Majors Garage, Rethread, Majors Series, and Mike for putting on a great series, and you guys for broadcasting this all these years.
Thank you so much, James. That was James Walker, your second place finisher. And now, Adam, I believe you've caught up with Matthew Thurnhorst, our third place finisher.
Yeah, Matthew, fantastic finish today. A win in round 1 and a third place in round 2. But talk to me about that race. Especially the restarts with the lap cars both ahead of you and on the inside. Those seem to be some very interesting moments for you and your Forge teammate, James Walker.
It was definitely interesting. Terrifying would be another word, because there was one where me and Christian were like 8th or 9th in line. We're just looking at 15 lap cars in front of us, and that wasn't a place you wanted to be, because I was trying to play the stay up front strategy, and the one time it went wrong, I think, was right after that restart where we kind of didn't get all the lap cars through them and trouble occurred. And that's kind of the race that put me on the back foot, because I don't know if we had the best set, but all I know is that even though because I almost had over a minute of damage, and my car was making a lot of time up in the corners. And so despite all that damage, but yeah, the lap cars, it was interesting. There were quite a few times where I was just like, oh, please go away. And a couple of wrecks. I know one of them got loose right as I was going by him, and it took Mark out. And it's just, it was accurate to the time period, but it's just kind of like not flies or gnats. It's just like, please go away. I don't want to deal with you anymore.
Absolutely. But with such a great finish, you come up now upon a great points finish for sure, but all of our thoughts have been turning this entire race to the hashtag racing for John and John King. So what kind of impact did John have on your time here in the majors so far?
Frankly, I didn't deal with him a whole lot. I know the rivalry Alliance and Kinetic kind of had, and so I don't know. I was just, I know Mike and the Kinetic guys think the world of him. And so, I definitely think that he might have been one of the guys that helped grow the league into what it was. And because I think it was about the year he started was the year that Mike decided to take it worldwide. And maybe he doesn't do that with John. So I definitely think his effects are felt league-wide and probably farther than that, so. Personally, like I said, I can't speak too much on him because I didn't talk or meet with him that much, but from what I've heard, he was a good guy.
Absolutely. And next round, we head over to Bathurst for the 2-hour race with the GT3s and GT4s at Mount Panorama. What are your thoughts heading into that?
Well, I think that's the international region, so I think...
Oh, my correction. Sorry, we're headed towards the Grand Prix of Long Beach with the Lotus 79 machines, actually, so... sorry, different question. Well, same question, but different circumstances.
I don't know. We're still, I might have to see if I can make that one or not, because I finally got my iRate enough up this year that I think I can try to make a serious run road to pro, and that's going to take a lot of time and effort. So that might be one of those races that I miss, because I never planned on going full time this year, and I was just pleased I could join the guys at Forge. So I'm kind of iffy on whether or not I'll be able to do that one or not.
Well, Matthew, is there anyone you want to thank for your third place finish before we let you go?
Yeah, just the guys at Forge. Paul Slavonic, he put DMG United on my hood. So any photography or video stuff in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you can hit them up. And Rethread Clothing Company, they gave us some sweet merch for Forge, and they have a kind of twist on pop culture stuff. So if you need any clothes there, you can go to them as well. So yeah, I just appreciate both of them coming on board for us, and just glad we could perform, me and James, well for the Forge team again.
Well, thanks for joining us, Matthew, and congrats on your third place finish today. And back to you, Joe.
Well, that will wrap things up for us. We want to reiterate one last time that if you would like to donate to the GoFundMe, we have a link in the description, hashtag racing for John. John, we're thinking of you, and we hope that this was a race that you'll get to enjoy at least parts of it if you have the energy. And we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that we've listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalott, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And then thanks to the team today, Adam, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is also in the description below. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Long Beach is the next one, as we mentioned, in the Lotus 79. That'll be Sunday, March 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern. But we also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.